City Council. Mrs. Keaton, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Green. Present. Councilman Smiley. Councilman Ford. Present. Councilwoman Logan. Present. Councilwoman Swearingen Washington. Present. Councilwoman White. Councilwoman Cooper Sutton. Present. Councilman Warren. Present. Councilwoman Walker. Present. Councilman Canali. Chair Carlisle.
The chair is here and observes a quorum. Colleagues, I think we have 2 divisions on today's agenda. 2, 3. City court judges, that's right. All right, we have 3 items on today's agenda. We have Public Works, HCD, and the city courts. Public Works is obviously general fund, and then we have the storm and sewer, which are enterprise funds and are tangential to the general fund. With that being said, we have Director Connect here and team, an all-star team. Director Connect, if you could give us your name and title for the record, and the floor is yours, sir. Oh, one more housekeeping note. We are waiting from the print shop for copies of CIP for all divisions today. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run through Public Works' operating, storm operating, sewer operating, and then hopefully by then we've got CIP to kind of dive into. We'll probably stay more into the geo bond issuance than getting into the enterprise funds, but certainly if people have questions or Robert or Director Connect has things that he wants to touch on, obviously we'll do that. But a lot of those projects, as you all know, are long-term capital projects like biosolids. New term I learned here. All right, Director Connect, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Robert Connect, Public Works Director for the City of Memphis, obviously, 125 North Main. And thank you for recognizing I have a wonderful team here behind me, and Miss Mary Daniels, who's my administrator over finance and who helps me pull this together. So she's going to be driving the presentation while I go through it. So the first one that we are going to discuss is the operating budget for Public Works, the general fund. An overview of the Public Works org chart. Public Works has 3 main departments. They are basically by fund generally. So the general fund, sewer fund, and stormwater fund. Well, and you'll see in each one of those presentations how those funds are allocated throughout the division. In the general fund, obviously the administrative side, then you have street maintenance and neighborhood improvement, which is primarily the enforcement side of Public Works in terms of blight. Next slide. So what are our strategic priorities of this budget? So one of the big initiatives that we've started is our coordination with MPD on our Code Zero initiative. We've started this as a proactive code enforcement opportunity. We've been in 3 MPD precincts, Rains, Mount Moriah, and Airways. I think it's been a huge success, and we want to build upon that as part of the mayor's priorities in mind to just make sure we're being as proactive as we can addressing violations. We also need to replace and modernize the city is one of the few in the state that has its own asphalt plant. I won't get into all the reasons that's a huge benefit to us, but it is. We're going to invest about $2 million in that facility to give it another 15 to 20 years. That is going to be with the allocation of the CIP budget we have for paving. So it just noted here, it would be actually derived from the CIP transfer. Chronic nuisance is a huge opportunity. We've actually filed our first chronic nuisance ordinance violation. We have sued Serenity Towers. So, that's a very difficult property we've had issues with. So that's a good example. Yes, exactly. And then we're going to utilize some of the properties that we have common liens. We have 863 properties with repeat liens. So I'd like to use the chronic nuisance ordinance to kind of be more aggressive towards those types of properties. Obviously, we have that authority, but we're going to exercise it. We want to create a snow and ice public facing app. During our snow and ice season, we are very busy, but we don't educate the public where our equipment is, where it's been, what we treated. So that's a step we plan to do with a communicative an application to give the public a status updates. And then collect fees. That's something I've been talking about. We're very close with Excella to being able to execute on that. So when we do a citation or notice a violation, we want to associate administrative costs and fines and fees with that, right? So we're hopeful that step moves forward, but that also, if it goes to court, will require the judge's support. We've asked for that. We'll see. And then lastly, we definitely want to be clean and attractive neighborhoods. So improving street maintenance. We have a lot of AI detection going on. In your hand, part of the handouts, you have an overview of what those programs look like. So we've done the pothole detection. It's really moved along to where it's completed. We're doing a blight detection model. Was using Google Cloud AI. We're going to do an infrastructure one, looking at stormwater systems and curb and gutter next phase. And that's very exciting that we're going to have more and more proactive government that doesn't rely on people. Technology is the goal to help support the vision of our future of being more sustainable, more proactive. And then dumpster days, we've hosted one already in Councilwoman Swearingen, Washington's district. We've asked each one of you to support ones that are come in each of your districts. We want to host 2. So single districts, unfortunately, are easier for us to coordinate because we obviously when single districts are overlap with super districts. I'm open to dialogue on that. If I have capacity for the super districts to host one, we'll definitely do our best. But our goal is 2. Thank you. And then convenience centers, like we're in coordination with solid waste on hoping to expand the convenience centers. So going on. So what are the big changes? The blight initiative is the big one. The street clean streets. That's the biggest point. So you look at our change of $10.9 million requests over FY25 over FY24. There are some of that is the personnel costs for the proposed raises, but the biggest piece of that is $8 million for the blight initiative, which they're calling the clean streets. So we provided a map and a list of streets, kind of highlighting which ones, what areas, what the plan is. Our goal is that we have. Obviously, you hear it, and I hear it, and the mayor hears this a lot. Why can't our streets look better? Why can't our streets, especially our main gateways? We have way too many streets to do them all. But we looked at 30 major thoroughfares. Some of them are state routes, so we can obviously approach TDOT about a partnership there, but with a much higher level of service of collecting litter and addressing weeds and vegetation on those areas, being a little more intentional. And then, weekly service as much as we possibly can, and looking to partner with CDCs and nonprofits and maximizing their participation, obviously, because that gets a lot more buy-in from the community. We want more civic engagement. We want the community to feel like we're doing more, but if they are engaged, then we get a much better return on investment. So the big piece of this is obviously the $7 million for the enhanced litter and right-of-way cleanup, and then herbicide just to spray and clean and get rid of the weeds as much as we can as well as proposed. Moving on, this just breaks out the distribution of those funds, primarily street maintenance, as I mentioned, with the $8 million being the biggest piece of that. Moving on to the next slide. How is it broken out? Salaries. Most of that is labor negotiated, and then the professional services, the street cleaning and weekly litter initiative being, again, the largest components of that 10.9. Moving on to slide 9, the bridge analysis for revenue. We do generate revenues based on our actions of liens being the biggest ones. Whenever code does an action on a property, ordinance requires us to place a lien on it. So our liens have been trending up. Our lien recoupment has gone up by $250,000. Actually, it was closer to $300,000 this last year. So we were increasing our budgetary ask to $550,000. And the other plan is to start on executing on the fees that I mentioned. So we're adding $125,000 to the VPR / fine fee program. So I also want to expand the VPR. I've talked to Councilwoman White about that, and hopefully, we might be able to come together with a resolution, a change in the ordinance to enhance that. Next one is just a more detail where those fees are derived from the special assessment tax and the VPR. All that's a neighborhood improvement. Moving on to personnel, which is on slide 13 in terms of the authorized complement. Public Works has in the general fund 271 authorized complement. We have 16 vacancies right now. It's only 6% of our complement. There's a 9 in street maintenance and a 7 in excuse me, and neighborhood improvement. All those are posted. And so we are always aggressively working. The number is much better than it was last year. We've been very aggressive in filling vacancies.
And just to remind everybody that this complement is not all of the individuals that work in public works. This is the complement that is paid for specifically out of the general fund. So when we get into storm and sewer, you'll see other employees, they are paid for out of those enterprise funds. So just to make that point.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the total public works is 800 people. So we're third largest division, right, yeah, sir. Moving on to 15, the major M&S. I kind of highlight the major ones. Materials and supplies is one of our biggest cost drivers. City shop charges, which is based on our fleet, the general fund fleet component through the fleet management, fleet services operation. The demolitions, we are allocating $1.6 million for demolition projects. Asphalt products, which is our paving, that is all recovered from the CIP budget. There's a $6.5 million allocation for personnel and M&S from CIP for in-house paving. So that's that. You'll see that in the M&S recoveries for personnel and M&S recoveries for expense recoveries.
Do you want to touch on that now?
I can.
Yeah, I think now would be a good time because we brought it up twice about in-house paving and the pros and cons, but the cost benefits in our direction.
So you'll see in the CIP budget for public works is a $10 million allocation for paving this year. $6.5 million is allocated to street maintenance for in-house paving. That funds the operation asphalt plant, the production of asphalt, and all the components that made up that, the aggregates and the AC asphalt cement that we use to make it. And the good thing is we make asphalt cement year round. Not everybody else can do that. Most of the plants, the privately owned plants, shut down for 3 months at a time, and you can't even get asphalt cement, hot mix asphalt. So we are very fortunate to have our own in-house paving operation. And the other good thing is that it is keep our costs down. Our cost per lane mile is about 60%, 70% of what contractors charge. Now, we only do the smaller residential streets versus the major thoroughfares, so there is a little variance in cost drivers for that. But the benefit to the citizens is huge. For that $6.5 million, we'll pave 80 lane miles. If you do a lot cost per lane mile, that's $60,000, $70,000 per lane mile. So it's a huge cost benefit to the citizens that we do as much in-house as we can for the dollars that come from the CIP allocations. And then we are justified, as I said, to recover the people and some of their benefits that do the job. Since it is a capital cost, we recover a certain number of positions. I want to say it's 16 positions that we fund through CIP to who actually run the paving equipment and all the other stuff that actually puts the asphalt down and delivers the asphalt and supervises that. And again, the material cost. So, but that is, and obviously you have to recover that. So there's an expense recovery line at personnel and M&S to show how those funds are captured in the operating budget. And then the last one is the miscellaneous professional services at $13.4 million. There's a detailed slide on that, which we'll describe next on slide 16. So as I said before, we've, under the mayor's initiative and public works initiative, you'll see this $8 million proposal to do the clean streets and weekly and cleanup initiative. You have the map. I won't go over that any further. Weed mitigation, grass cutting, $2.4 million. Obviously, on an annual basis, we cut 9,100 privately owned parcels at least twice a year. This has been the typical average. So that is a cost of about $2.4 million to the general fund to just keep those properties in compliance. That's not, like you say, what we would require the average citizen. It's just when it gets over 12 inches per code, many of you know, you call the 311 call center, we start the process. It takes us about 30 days to cite somebody.
Yeah, I'm going to help you out here. This is going to be important going into the summer, so I'm going to make the note for members as a reminder and for anybody that hasn't heard it. So this is not all we spend on quote overgrown grass. So you've got public service. There are different things that we do in different divisions for different purposes. There is a cost recovery to this that we've talked about. Obviously, if we go and cut your grass on private property, we then send you a bill. If you don't pay the bill, it gets attached to the lien. So it is a little bit of I don't know what our recovery looks like on an annual basis. It's not great as anticipated. But the thing that I want to make note of for council members, and Director Knag, you can hop in here and cut me off if you want. But ultimately, what I've seen in the last several years, it gets very frustrating, is what he just said, is when we get into the growing season, which in the South, in Memphis, is sometime between
It's now.
It's now, but it really ramps up for a lot of types of glass, like bins,
Johnson grass.
Yeah,
You're dealing with it in March. Sometimes.
So as it gets warmer, the cutting cycle goes from 3 weeks to 2 weeks. Here's the rub: is you can't file a complaint until the grass is 12 inches, and then it takes 30 days for them to respond. So I guess what I'm trying to do is prepare you and your staff members to get inundated with, I filed a complaint last week, the grass is already 12 inches, it'll be 2 feet by the time they can get out there and cut it. And the problem is that when they go and cut it in the summertime, within another 2 weeks, it's going to be right back up there. And unfortunately, it is a cost of doing business. I mean, even if we wanted, I mean, do you have anything else to kind of add to that?
We do more than most cities do. Most cities don't do anything. They just acknowledge it's private property and they won't take action unless it's like a public, more serious matter. So it's just it is the cost of doing business to keep, the blight. And there is a crime component to blight. We can all agree. So it does help to kind of mitigate to some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to get out there because I think in the beginning years of my time here, I got very frustrated. And once you realize the process that we have to follow in order to go onto someone's private property, which it is, whether they're around or not, there are steps that we have to take, and it gets very frustrating. So as you get into the summer and those hey, I called 311 or I called code, prepare for that. All right, let's hit MWBEs and then go to the queue.
Yeah, so I do want to say that the grass mitigation is 100% SBE, so that's good. It's all local. There's 25 vendors in the last bid RFQ packet, so we are hopeful for that. And then we do cut the medians, and that's 341 miles. So there's another $2 million on median maintenance on top of the two. So it's about $4.5 million we spend just in the general fund, just on maintenance of the public right-of-ways and then cleaning up private property. This slide covers, this is for all public works, so it's all funds. You'll see it in each one of the presentations. You'll see that what's recognized total certified by the OBDC is 17%, but actually we spend closer to 23% and $38 million on local spend if you factor in what happens below here under SARB 10 and MSQ2, which is our stormwater program, and our SARB 10 is our sewer assessment rehabilitation program. So great story to be told how much we actually contribute to the local SB market in contracting out services. And with that, that's all I have for the general fund presentation.
Thank you. I've got Councilwoman Logan, Swearingen, Washington, and then Canales. Councilwoman Logan.
Thank you, Chair. Could you give me the difference in this year's budget versus, because I didn't bring them up, I meant to look that up, versus last year in grass cutting and litter pickup? So
litter is funded different ways. So there is some general fund, but there is some stormwater funding for litter because we are allowed to do that. So
But total.
The total for public works for litter, how much was budgeted for last year?
The difference, whether it's an increase, decrease, and what that difference is, and what percentage of that. Well, answer that first, and we'll go on.
So the $1.9 million, the $2 million for right-of-way that's shown in there now was what we budgeted last year for the maintenance of the right-of-ways for litter.
It's flat.
Yes.
Okay, so 1.9.
But we had the legal dumping component in neighborhood improvement, which was, hold on, let me get environmental enforcement's budget. Spare me 1 second.
So you're saying the right-of-way budget is flat?
Yes.
Okay.
Until we added $8 million as an increase. That's all right of way that I just shared. That's all right of way litter only. So for 25, the proposal.
Say that one more time. That confused me.
Yeah. So in FY25, there's an $8 million proposed increase that's all for litter collection in the public right of way.
So it is not flat.
No, we're requesting an increase for 25
I
of
think
$8
that's
million.
why you said flat. I think we're good. We're on the same
I'm
page.
saying 24 was flat for the things that
FY23 to 24 went flat.
Yeah,
and now you're increasing
dumping.
8.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So the budget was 1.9. Now it's 8 million.
No, it's going to be 9.9 million.
Or 9.9. You added 8 to that. So.
That's the proposal. That's exactly right.
Yeah, right.
And then the environmental enforcement, there's basically $2.5 million, $2.25 million for environmental enforcement, and they do all illegal dumping, which is litter. So
That was increased 2.5?
no, that's just what it was last year. So there's no increase there. So the only increase we have is on the right-of-way side, which is the $8 million ask for 25. Everything else, there's no change.
Okay, so everything else is flat in the right-of-way?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
In terms of litter collection, we're talking about, yes.
Okay.
And then
the
your question on grass cutting?
Yes.
So grass cutting, there's a little bit of grass cutting budgeted in the $8 million because we're talking about cleaning up the medians and those islands, those areas, those interchanges. So there's some incorporated into that. The rest of it, if we're just talking just grass cutting a right of way, or are we talking all grass cutting, which is included private property?
All of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
So
Well, don't include the right-of-way, because you said you already gave me that, right?
yeah, well, yeah, that's
So
incorporated.
just the part you didn't tell me.
Okay, so in the grass cutting for neighborhood, which is all pretty much grounds, if you look at ground services budget for M&S, which is all professional services, the ask for 24 was $2,041,101, and the request for 25 is $2,144,950. So there's really a $103,000 increase in grass cutting for ground services.
So, okay,
So it's $100,000
just $100,000
for private property grass cutting, just to be clear.
okay. And I know, we recouped that back. I don't know what rate, but that 100,000 doesn't seem like a lot to really put a dent in anything. And I know,
Well,
people are responsible for their grass, but we know as the city that they're not. And they're right in the neighborhood. And that's where I was hoping, just to get a glimpse of the overall increase in funding for the areas that are most problematic. And did you want to?
But we are $8 million infusion into what we hear a lot about as well, which is the condition of our streets, which are our responsibility.
Yeah.
We only get 15% back. Right now, we're about 50% back of every dollar we put into the private property.
Only 50%?
15.
15?
So
yeah, that's terrible.
So that's just the way it's been.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's up, but it's right now. We just don't get the values back.
We don't have a way to compel.
Yeah.
We don't have a way to
have
compel
dedicated
somebody.
people trying to get that money back, or I know we don't have a collection agency, but is that professional?
The treasurer does place the lien, and obviously there's a process, but it just sits there. I mean,
we just put a lien. Okay.
I mentioned the chronic nuisance. I mentioned that we have 863 properties that are chronically liened for the last 5 years. So I think we should sue those properties through the chronic nuisance ordinance, and then try to get them to receivership. But that takes time and cost. So I don't know that we're going to get as quick as return as we do we're talking about on the public right-of-ways, which are the gateways and when you talk about in the airport and those where we get an infusion of people visiting. That's why we're talking about what is the value and investment for the money.
And all of it is, and I understand we can't do all of it in hitting the major. So the $8 million, what is that going to get us? What has been your projection on how much you're going to increase cutting on those major airport? What is the $8 million going to bring us?
So you have the map over there, right?
Okay.
Look at the map and the list of streets. It's that's big one right there, right? And there's a list.
I guess I'm more so concerned about the formula.
Yeah,
what
so
formula are you using?
weekly litter collection on every one of those routes. Weekly litter. And then also hitting the weeds that are in those problem areas like those, you drive down Lamar and you hit the interchange right there where the islands are, right? And Councilwoman Washington talks to me about this a lot. The cleanliness of those interchanges where the weeds are sticking up out of the sidewalks.
Right.
It just looks bad. So we're talking about addressing that by cutting it and spraying it. So we kill the weeds and make it just look better overall. So enhancing all those streets and reducing litter. And that's the formula.
Okay, let me hear Director Adams, because I'm not quite hearing what I need to hear.
Yes, ma'am. So what you're referring to is what the mayor's talked to some of you on, and he's mentioned as well. With the $8 million through Public Works, we are going to engage community organizations, nonprofits, to then take care of neighborhoods, communities in their local areas.
Okay.
Now, we're not going to be able to completely spend all of that money with those local, maybe CDCs, nonprofits. So there will be some augmenting with maybe some for-profit entities that will help us with grass cutting as well. But what you're referring to is what the mayor has spoken publicly and privately about, and that is going to run through this division, and then that's going to run out to the CDCs, nonprofits to kind of help us in taking their neighborhoods back, keeping it clean, and moving forward. So there's going to be blight and grass mitigation.
So you're saying that, and I'm trying to look at the budget and see how the budget we're going to pass is going to impact the city right-of-ways as well, where the problems are, as well as the communities and neighborhoods. And so we know that vacant properties is an issue. We know that, people just letting their grass get up to 2 feet is an issue. So where we live, where people are really complaining about, as well as those interchanges, which are, I know you said this is people's private property, but some of that is the state as well. So we still got, it's not ours. So I'm just trying to understand that, because $8 million is a lot, but it doesn't seem like a lot when you're talking about major right-of-ways and those vacant properties. We got, thousands and thousands of them. I'm trying to find out how did we land on $8 million, basically? Okay. Is that a formula we use?
So what I looked at, what we basically pay for someone to pick up litter on a stretch of roadway, like a mile. So there's basically 301 miles outlined in those 30 streets you have a list of 30 streets. So I just multiplied that number times 301 and came up with the number. I added a little bit of buffer because the last time we bid it was 2021. So there's been escalation. So there's some safety factor there, bid assurance based on escalations. And then the other $1 million at the bottom is just based on if we were to apply herbicide to all these routes for a year, we could get rid of a lot of the tree weed problems as well, making it easier to maintain. And there's a cost for that per mile, and I just derived that same formula from that. So it's all based on a bid that we had several years ago and how many miles we are planning to treat now. A lot of it's labor. People walking down, picking up litter. Yeah. What does it take for that to be supported? Collecting litter, hauling away, and bringing it to us to be disposed of.
Okay, so all of these streets will be, all of these intersections will be done each week.
No, all those streets from that. So you look at the map, you look at the highlighted green. That our goal is from one end of that street to the whole other end of that street, which can be 13, 14 miles for someone to hit over a 5-day period to sweep that street
weekly,
and then come back and start over.
Okay, and that's cutting.
That's mostly litter. Cutting based on need, but most of it's litter. But we have some money in there for cutting that as well to clean it up, cut the weeds, and then, like I say, spray.
So the $8 million is for, and I'm gonna go on and let somebody else talk. But the $8 million is for cutting and for street sweeping.
No, that's just litter collection. That's just manually litter collecting. Street sweeping we can do is street sweeping is funded out of stormwater fund, not the general fund. So I only have so many street sweepers. We're adding to it. I'll explain that in the stormwater fund presentation.
No, I thought that's what you said. I'm sorry, I misheard you. Okay, well, you can go, and I'll circle back.
And think about this. We're talking about back of sidewalk to back of sidewalk, not just a street. So this is the first time we've ever really done that.
Okay.
Because, generally our rule is inside the curb, because that's the city responsibility. We're actually going to be extending it to the back of the sidewalk, which is the property responsibility. But the question has always come up to the mayor and myself, well, I don't care, it just looks bad. It just looks bad. Right. Want the right-of-ways to look better, so this is why this proposal extends more into the general right-of-way cleanup, not just street cleanup.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Clarify everything more in the granular level.
And I'll get with you later to get a better understanding.
All right, we have triggered a lot of questions. I will just make the comment that it just kills me that we're going to spend this kind of money to pick up trash after people. Like, it's one thing grass grows, that's a natural occurrence. But when people are like, hey, why don't we have money for this? Because we're spending money to literally pick up trash that people threw out of their car. Yeah.
That's a wonderful point. And also there is a vision in that we're going to get buy-in to people to do a better job. Maybe not. Maybe
I wish you the best
It's
with that.
we're not handicapping owners. Sometimes you can see it as a handicapping of owners because you're subsidizing them. But we also have to try sometimes to see what return we get.
I've got-
It may not be. It may be a returning investment. It may be a declining investment. That you don't know till
You
try.
said it best. I mean, at the end of the day, whether the behavior changes or not, there are streets and they're dirty, and we got to do something about them because there are neighbors there that are fighting for them. So we got to help them.
It was one thing that I didn't say. I would like for you to send the Blight Task Force recommendations and where those are baked into this budget.
Sure.
Because we had education as a huge component because we got to change the behavior of the residents. We talked about partnering with the elementary schools and school systems to get an educational messaging going to teach children that they're not supposed to litter because a lot of them don't know that. So there were a lot of things in the Blight Task Force that I don't readily see here, and I would like for you to send me that
Okay.
line by line on the Blight Task Force.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Swearingen, Washington, then Canale, Cooper Sutton, Warren, and Green.
Thank you, Chair. That's what I wanted to ask about the aggressive campaign that we could maybe partner with communications about littering.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's almost as if we need a partnership with our restaurants. When you leave Popeyes, have a little sign in the window. When you finish eating this chicken, would you please not throw your stuff on the ground?
It's true.
Please don't throw your Coke
It's
out.
sad but true.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Now, I see parkways on here. What's your definition of parkways?
That is all of the East Parkway, South Parkway, North Parkway, all of our parkways. Anyone that's ever identified as a parkway.
Okay.
Germantown Parkway is on there.
Because sometimes the area of South Parkway off of the expressway to Lamar around to Airways is often ignored. So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that's included.
If you look on the map, it's on there.
Okay. Are we?
I tried to think of everything that you and others have said to me about the condition of the litter and you're tired of it. So all that went into consideration. And you can see I try to hit streets throughout every council district across our city equally based on the impacts, where we
It's
see
looking
litter,
better.
where we see, most of the complaints come from as well.
Are we being aggressive with getting grant funding, federal dollars? Do you have someone assigned to do that, to make sure that we are receiving every dollar that we can?
So both Director Belen and I and Director Zena are constantly looking. I don't have anybody dedicated. The city has some staff, but we get a lot of different information from different federal agencies about programming. TML, I'm on the TML notice list. I'm also on APWA, which is the group American Public Works Association. So we look at all this opportunity and apply for everything. In the CIP, you're going to see where we try to leverage most of our grant funding because it's usually going to be for construction. You're not going to get, unlike police, I'm not going to get a lot of programming for public safety. Even though we're public safety, Public Works is public safety because we support everything they do and we're first responders. We just don't get the same level of opportunity for grant funding for operations.
Where are we on the Elvis Presley Park project over there by Graceland?
So phase 1 is done. We're ready to start construction on phase 2. It's in the CIP budget, but we're talking about phase 2 ready, but TDOT has not guaranteed funding for phase 2. So it's going to be dependent on, we get TDOT to approve their funding commitment. We have ours in there. The city's funded it, but TDOT was supposed to give us 80% match. They have not funded it yet, even though they had initially funded. They changed their strategy. So Director Belen and I have been talking to them and reiterating the fact they committed to it, but they told us they had a change in their strategic budgeting for their capital plans, and Elvis Presley Boulevard wasn't identified in that last round.
I talked to the state reps.
So yes, they got to explain to us why they've changed after we've expended years planning, years in right-of-way acquisitions, and now we're basically waiting on them to say, oh yeah, we really are going to fund it, basically. I'll just tell it like it is.
I went to a meeting there the other day and it was like going on a roller coaster.
Yes, ma'am. But that's where it is.
Okay.
And it's in limbo for TDOT.
Where did the funds for phase 1 come
Hold
from?
on, Councilwoman. Hold on. Councilman, are you finished? All right. We're going to go to Councilman Canale, then Cooper Sutton, Warren Green, Smiley, then Walker. So Councilman Canale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, on the expense recovery, the MS, you may have already said this, forgive me if I missed it. The $5,056,250, is that FEMA reimbursement from storm?
No, which line, which slide are we on, sorry, let me make sure.
I'm not in your slide, I was in the budget book.
Which section, is it admin, or is it just the general fund
M&S.
public works? M&S. It's okay, the $5.56 million, 5.06.
No, I know what we spent from the storm damage.
Oh, the $5.5 million.
Right, but I'm saying the money that the recovery, where did it come back from?
Well, there's two different things we're talking about, so I just make
How
sure.
much is-
And we get $6.5 million recovery from the CIP budget for paving in-house, okay? So roughly 5 million of that goes to street maintenance, and the 1.5 million goes to personnel for street maintenance. So $5 million, like $5,056,000 is CIP recovery.
But don't we get some FEMA reimbursement from storm? No.
No, only if there's a declaration. We did allocate some money last year because we had a big wind event in September for that storm, but that came out of the city's reserves. We didn't qualify for a declaration in September.
Okay. And then on the asphalt products, the weed control, and then the miscellaneous professional services, we outspent our budget by about 1.8 million. Where do we get that?
He's in this year going to forecast.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the overview. So for asphalt products,
Just for my knowledge, like when we overspend what we adopted, where do we pull that from?
either other lines or we have to make a budget adjustment. There was a request for FY24 for a budget adjustment. I think $350,000 for personnel. I was able to absorb it in M&S. Most of that by benefit of just controlling costs elsewhere.
Okay. But for the miscellaneous professional services line, that's the biggest jump. Was there one item that caused that to be so?
A jump for 25 requests, or are we talking?
No, well, no. I
spend?
mean, the 25 requests is basically what we're going to end up spending for forecast in 24. But we only budgeted $4.5 million. Looks like we're going to spend 5.6. So the extra $1,053,000. Is there an item or two or three that caused the jump?
Some of it's encumbrance carry forward. So we have some encumbrance carry forward from.
I'm going to clean this up.
years.
I'm going to clean this up. You guys were approved of a budget of about $4.58 million.
Yes.
You were forecasted to spend $5.6 million. You were 20% off your approved budget.
Yes.
How did that happen without anybody's authority on this body is where he's driving at.
So.
And it'd be one thing if it's an emergency, right? Like you were required to respond. It's another if you guys just went and said, we're going to do this and hope to clean it up by the end and jam up the council. Now, I know it's not nefarious and mean that way, Robert, because you're a nice guy. But that is his question is, how did you end up 20% over budget on a specific line without the authority of this body?
So we do encumbrance carry forwards.
And you're not the only one, by the way.
Yeah, we do encumbrance carry forwards year over year to fund projects that have been approved, and then they overlap fiscal years. So like in demolitions, for example, we'll fund a number of demolitions.
But that carry forward, okay.
I know.
That carry forward would have been in the approved budget. You cannot miss adopted and forecast by 20% and call it carry forward.
I don't have my 24 request in front of me.
I'm going to tell you, I'll read it out for you. It's miscellaneous professional services, fiscal year actual 23, 4.648 million. Fiscal year 24 adopted budget, 4.565 million. Forecasted, which means where we think we're going to come in, is 5.618. Quick back of the napkin math is we're roughly off by about 22%.
Yes, sir.
How did that happen? And what Mr. Canale is asking you is, was there a singular event or two or three events? Did we lose 5 people and you had to hire? What caused the variance? A very, very, and not to be rude, but it's a very simple question. It may have a complex answer, but the question alone is simple. How did you miss by 20%? And I just want to reiterate, you are not the only director. This is how, when you aggregate Public Works and everybody else, we missed materials and supplies by $30 million.
So a council in FY24 approved a $5.5 million emergency response, okay? And part of that money was allocated to professional services. So we utilized companies for Holloway trees. We used companies to help, oversight that. So that's where the cost driver was in the allocation that we had an emergency, but the expense happened in professional services. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, it shouldn't be. It should be captured in the line that was that disaster. So there might be some clarification there, but I'd have to go in and,
let's
do the analysis
do this,
on that.
Councilman, if you don't mind, Vice Chairman. Let's do this. Why don't you dig in and get a written response and shoot it to the council? Again, you're not the only division director, but this is kind of a common theme in certain divisions where spending occurred, and I'm not accusing you of this, but spending occurred, and it's like, how did this happen?
Well, and just as a reminder, each division director is allowed to administratively move $100,000.
Right, you can blackline.
Right? Yeah, you can blackline all the time, right? So I just wanted to make that clear. But this is a 16% variance. I understand.
Yeah.
So, but that's my initial thought.
Okay.
But also just a reminder about the encumbrance carry forwards happen too. And they may not be booked until the next fiscal year, which you see in my presentation. There's a $1.2 million, I think, encumbrance carry forward. $1 million encumbrance carry forward in M&S from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25 projected.
Understood.
Okay.
Vice Chairman, you good? Mm-hmm. All right. Councilwoman Cooper Sutton, then Warren.
I withdraw.
Thank you. Councilman Warren. And then Green.
Just wanted to say that I am really impressed with this map of trying to get these major roads clean. I think it's going to make the city look a lot better. I'm hoping that it will actually make people not litter when they're driving down the roads and help us get going with getting this blight gone. So I like it. It goes everywhere. We just have to make sure we can implement it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. Councilwoman Green, Chairman Smiley, and then Councilwoman Walker.
Thank you, Chair. Director Connect, I think after hearing a lot of the questions today, it would be helpful for the council to have a breakdown of the projected cost of the $8 million, like what is labor, what is materials, pesticides, whatever, So I think that would be a helpful thing for us. I also think it'd be helpful if you my assumption is, I hate to assume, we can't do like day one, everybody just goes out and does every single street. So like, where are we going to start? And that sort of leads me to my second part, which is, and this is more directed at the administration. We keep being presented the highest expense, the 75 cent, I know that's your proposal, and what that could do. But you gave us a chart, right? Which was like, if we did a 75 cent property tax increase, we could do all these things. And then there was a lower and then a lower, right? And we're not seeing what that would look like for the budget, because we keep being told that, you asked everybody to cut 10%, but every budget we're getting presented, like this one today, it's an increase of 62.8%. We're not getting to see where you made the cuts necessarily, because they're not being really laid out for us that way. And I think if we could see something like that, we might also be able to look at a map like this and say, like, where could we pilot this project? Where could we start in a smaller way? And if we wanted to scale back, how could we scale it back, right? We're only being shown the biggest picture instead of like, what are the other options out there? And so I think it would be helpful for us to see sort of the nuts and bolts of how you got to 8 million, because it just feels like 8 million. Like, I'm sure it's not a made up number, but it feels like it, right? Mm-hmm. And I would like to see how we got there, and then what are the other options if we wanted to consider other options. Like, because I think on this council, again, we would like a cleaner Memphis. We would like our roads not to be littered, right? But we also know that this is a really tight year. And how can we work towards that goal, but maybe not have this giant plan? So those were my thoughts.
So yeah,
Dr. Connect.
so I didn't pull these out of the air. They were based on bids in the past, right? And they were old bids, so I did have to make some accommodation for escalations. And it was based on our current right-of-way maintenance model, with the contractor charges for litter. And
Yeah,
stuff.
no,
So-
I'm sure you did. We just don't have it. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I think like a lot of the questions that were being asked, like how much of this is labor and how much of this is weeding versus picking up trash, or those different types of labor. If
Yeah.
we could just have it, just some transparency on that end.
Yeah,
ma'am.
and I'll add to that. And this is mainly for you two gentlemen. I think to that point, one of the big things in budget season is understanding major variances, increases or decreases or realignments. But if the mayor has a new program, and I will caveat what I'm about to say by saying I recognize when launching a new initiative with a mayor that's been in office for 4 months and 15 days, you guys are still working out some of the details. But neighborhood improvements is so broad, it's spun us into this longer discussion. And so for directors that are coming forward, if they have anything that is considered a new mayor-led initiative, that they have some framework in writing that's a little bit more detailed, right? Like this is actually super helpful for me, this map. Like I get what you're doing as far as the litter pickup, and so for me, it's a little bit less about you, but because I know it's hard to do some of the things that we need you to if you're going to just basically bid out contracts through CDCs or through your vendors already. But there are other initiatives that have come forward that have been a little hard to understand. And so you're asking the council to step off into a ledge and approve this revenue increase / tax increase. And I think philosophically, you're hearing feedback that people are interested and excited, but because it is such a significant decision, they're looking for the details so that they can stand by whatever decision they want to make. And so I would just ask that of the chiefs going forward, because that's where I think you're hearing a lot of the harping on, hey, what is this for? And I think it's a reasonable question. Councilwoman Green, I'm sorry to step in. Did you have any other comments? All right, Chairman Smiley and then Councilwoman Walker.
Well, I think for the most part, Councilwoman Green hit the nail on his head. I'm concerned when we talk about, spending $8 million on something we've never seen succeed before. We spent a lot of time, I think, over the previous, I feel like I've been here 10 years at this point.
It's like 12 years.
For the previous 4 years, trying to start new programs, and they always get out to a very slow start. They never come off effectively or efficiently, none of them. We attempted to do it with the Public Service Corps. I think we spent 2 years talking about, I don't have to get into details. We all know. We spent several years talking about, the issues with it. We attempted to, we overpromised when it came to GVIP. And we always talk about the hiccups with that. So much so the council members saying, should we really be funding GVIP, or should we take those funds and put them into MPD? I'm just having a hard time, buying in completely to a new program when I've seen programs be oversold and then deliver little to the people of Memphis, especially when we talk about $8 million. That's my hesitation, and I just get back to the point, and I'm all for neighborhood cleanup. I think we have to be. One of my neighbors is Councilwoman Swearinger Washington, so we know we're all for neighborhood cleanup, but I just have a hard time saying, hey, let's put $8 million into a program. And, just go back to what I've said from the very beginning. When you come present, there has to be some level of specificity. What we're seeing is a map saying, hey, these streets are going to be clean. We don't know the vendors. We don't know the groups. We don't know much of anything other than this is an idea to clean up the community. Well, we all want the community clean, but if the community is telling us to do our due diligence and ask tough questions, it would be less than prudent of this body to approve something when we have not truly seen a tangible plan. And we're also asking the people, hey, there's a 75 cents tax increase. In addition to that 75 cents tax increase, there's a solid waste fee that's requiring us to pay an additional 23%. Like there's fees on fees on fees. And our job is to ask tough questions. So nothing against anyone up here, but we have to ask these tough questions, because we don't ask the tough questions. We go back in our community and they say, y'all gonna approve that $8 million for neighborhood cleanup? And then they ask us the next question. Well, what is that gonna be? And we sit there looking like deer headlights. That's not good. It's not good. It's not a good feeling. Like I went, we're having community conversations tomorrow, and there was asking me a lot of questions. They asked me about midnight basketball, and I have no idea what it is other than I guess people gonna play basketball in the middle of the night. No clue. Like I don't like it could be. I'm not even saying this in jest. Like literally.
No, but at the time it was so good.
But literally, I have to answer these questions, and I have nothing. I have no answers for any of the new programs, like specificity. The closest thing I saw to a plan was Youth Services Director Brian Harris, and I still had some more questions about his plan, like specificity. And until specificity on every new program, JB Smiler would be a no. I need more information, and I would encourage my colleagues to vote no because we just don't have enough information.
Yes, sir, I understand, and I know Chief Adams may have something to say, but I would say that Public Works has been very good at executing plans. This is a very ambitious plan, no doubt about it. But I mean, from our legal dumping and environmental enforcement, we've been very successful in delivering on our commitments. But this is a very ambitious, and it's going to require a lot of partnerships, a lot of groups, a lot of individuals, and us being responsible to make sure it's done and executed.
So let me jump on partnerships. So partnerships somewhat scare me too, because we've been. Where are we with the shared data dashboard? That's a partnership. Is it up and running? Partnerships scare me. Like, I do believe, I talk about it all the time, I do believe, I believe for the most part, the divisions within the city of Memphis, we have some really great staff, some really great leaders. However, if it's something that we can do, we can correct, let us do it. And, talking partnerships with other agencies, I don't know what's going on. No shade. I don't know what's going on the county side. I don't know what's going on the district attorney side. I don't know what's going on the sheriff's office. But what I do know is what's happening here. So if it's something that we can do, let us do it. But when we talk about scaling a citywide program on day one, that's a bit much. But, with that, I'm out the queue. I just wanted to let you know my reluctance, because I think at the very first, when we first started talking about budget meetings, and we talked about what all of these new programs, literally the first thing I said is when you bring the new programs, there needs to be some level of specificity. And literally we have a piece of paper with, here's the street, and we're going to clean these parkways. And I think Councilwoman Logan was on point. We're cleaning up parkways. She said, but what about the inside of the communities? What about inside the core of the neighborhoods? What about the abandoned houses across the street? Like, what about those areas? There's not enough information when we talk about spending $8 million. And I can think of a lot of things we can do with $8 million, like not increase property taxes to the extent that we're asking people for.
Yes, sir. And let me say this one thing. I have a contractor who I could easily get to do this, but that's not the goal. It was not that you just utilize a contractor, even though they're 49% SBE.
Yeah.
The goal is to try to be CDC, nonprofit oriented as well. So you could easily contract it out, but it just is that the goal that we want to do 100%.
Yeah,
That's my only other comment, and I'll leave it alone.
I'm going to come to Chief Adams. I don't want us to get into too much of a back and forth. I think Chairman Smiley's made his point. I think you made your point. I think I want to give Chief Adams as the chief executor of the plan to say something. But I will say this, I want to be clear, I think, and I don't want to speak, but I am going to speak for the budget committees. This is not a public works issue. This is an across the board issue. And I swear, Robert, you are the one that catches it every year. Just somewhere we're in the stack of the meetings, man. Okay. So anyway, with that, Chief Adams, I think it'd be appropriate if you'd like to address it. If not, it's yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. You have the Division of Public Works, General Services, and Parks, and they endeavor in some level of grass mitigation and, of course, blight and litter mitigation as well, along with the Public Service Corps. Since we've been here in office, the young administration, I've heard nothing but glowing remarks about Public Service Corps. So I like to think that they work. We've had partners over the years, Lifelines to Success, that they work as well. And they share in some of the same work. One of the things that we do, anyone, even private vendor, before they ever cut grass, they pick up the litter. They have to. They have to. Because you go out and you cut the grass without picking something up. No, you can hurt someone because there could be a projectile there. So you have to pick up litter. So litter mitigation is a part of grass mitigation. And what we're saying, and you're right, should we have to do for others that should do anyway? No. But the reality is we're here. Mayor Young is offering this as proof of concept within Public Works. We go from town hall to town hall, from community to community, saying, we'll help you guys. All you have to do is invest in us. So this is an opportunity for some, not all, and we'll have to come up with some way of awarding to CDCs, nonprofits, or whatever. But this is an opportunity for them to take their community back and work with us to keep their communities clean.
Some are doing it.
And they will do it. Some are doing it without the money. So this is just that opportunity. So I hear you, and I understand with regard to specificity. You will hear more as we go along, and we'll bring it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. I've got Councilwoman Walker, Warren, and Logan. All right. And Councilman Ford.
Thank you. When Councilwoman Washington was talking about Elvis Presley, you were saying something about TDOT pulling out, or they didn't have. Could you give me a clarification on that again?
Yes, ma'am. This is your council district. We started Elvis Presley Boulevard a decade ago, this grand plan to really make improvements, to make it a better use for the public, for the businesses along there, some safety improvements, visual improvements, removing utilities. And so a lot of what we do is timely in making the decisions and getting stakeholder engagement, so we do the designs. All along, this is, just to be clear, Elvis Presley Boulevard is a state route. It's a federal highway, actually. It's a federal highway. So we don't even have responsibility. But the city took it upon itself under previous elected officials. Harold Collins was one of the biggest ones to make it a priority for the city to make an investment. So we became a locally managed project, which means that TDOT let us lead it, but they have to approve every step of the way following their process. They agreed to fund it. We had a $40 million price tag, if I remember right, Director Blinn. Initially allocated, we put our 20% in, and the state was supposed to guarantee their 80%. And that's what we've been moving forward with for the last, since the start of this project. We broke it up into 3 phases. Mm-hmm. Phase 1 is done. Mm-hmm. Phase 2, we got the right of way. We're ready to bid. We're ready to bid, I think, in 3 months. We have our money, but the state decided, without telling us a word, not one word, that they are changing their funding for this street segment.
Changing meaning
they
what?
took it away. They removed it. So Director Blinn and I are like, wait a second. We've spent time, resources acquiring right-of-way. We're ready to go to construction. What are you telling us? Like, well, we're just going to have to revisit this. This is going to be a TDOT leadership decision, kind of. That's what we're hearing. But I'm like, why are we not getting this in writing? Where was the communication saying, hey, sorry, city, we may change our mind?
Okay, I will follow up with you all on this offline. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
I yield the floor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman, I've got actually Warren and Logan have spoken, but I've got Councilman Ford who has not spoken. Councilman Ford, the floor is yours, and then we'll go back to Dr. Warren and then to Councilwoman Logan.
Appreciate you. One thing that I want to ask, hey, since Councilwoman Green, she talked about across the street, there are a lot of things that across the street's supposed to be doing. I always keep up with you with across the street, and if anybody know me, I always mention across the street. Okay, because if you live in the city, hey, we pay taxes, but this mayor across the street, and I hope he's listening today, get up off his legs behind. Don't play with us over on this side because, hey, he's playing the rope, okay, on us. He needs to do his part. I've been on the council before, 20-some years ago. They played the same game with us across the street. It's time because, first of all, city, and if we have to picket them, the county over there, okay? That's why I hope he's listening to us. We pay 2 taxes. We don't get anything from across the street almost. We have to beg, just like with the state. And then since you're talking about Elvis Presley Boulevard, it was hell, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
We were part of phase 1. And really, TDOT, hey, it kind of messed up, and then they were supposed to be taking care of some of the easements and everything else, but once they finished that first phase, they said, oh, no, it's yours now. And that was ours. Every business and everybody else is yours now. That's what they did to us, okay? Yeah, but I'm very concerned. Everybody was going, that's just like, hey, not only across the street, I'm talking about school board too. We got to be a little bit, hey, more hard on that. And when it comes to the school board, a lot of things they do to us over on this side, they didn't even give us respect to come back to us, the school board, to put that M back in front. They just took it upon themselves because they wanted something from us again. The county, hey, they the worst folk in the world. That's why, hey, it's bad when you elect bad people. They really don't care about nobody but themselves and then try to do, hey, for certain little groups. That's why, hey, you work across the street. Go back over there and tell them what I said.
Yes, sir.
You know, I want him mad at me. I'm senior, not junior. Okay? I'm very serious because you have an issue with junior. So I got an issue. That's what holds up things, and I don't like that. I don't like anybody about themselves. You know, we're doing this right now, but hey, when budget time, and hey, we're gonna have to have a tax raise. It ain't gonna be what they say. I've been working kind of hard trying to get some things done. I'm gonna present mine. Okay? I'm gonna present mine that's gonna kind of help everybody out. Okay? In the end, but you know, I'm listening to everybody. And I'm listening about across the streets playing games with us. And I ain't got time for no game across the street. You know, that's just like he don't want to go up on anything. He's playing the game with the city. Don't play with us over here. You know, we're going through some things and we want to make it right. And I want all these council members, black ones and the white ones now, I want y'all to understand me. Okay? I'm not prejudiced. I'm not this, that, and the other. And if anybody know my name is Edmund Hull Forward. I was named after 2 white men that did not like black people. I was named after E.H. Crump and Cordell Hull. That's my name. And they did not like us. So I'm not a prejudiced person. I believe in what's right and everything else. And hey, I understand your budget. That's just like I want to make sure across the street that they cutting them cemeteries. I'm an undertaker. And hey, we put money, and I make sure that what? And you can tell me, hey, don't I go across and say I need that money from across the street just like over here? Yes, that's why I want them to give us everything that we're supposed to get from them. Maybe we wouldn't be going through some of these changes. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Because we pay 2 taxes, 2 of them. Okay? And I need him to get that message. You know, when you end up spending millions of dollars for unnecessary things, I got an issue with it. Because it should be coming back over on our side to help us. Okay? And I'm going to be kind of very verbal on a lot of it because I ain't got nothing to lose, you know? I'm supposed to retire. I'm still here. I don't want to be here. Not really. But you know what? I'm on a mission to make sure things do get right, and I don't mind calling out nobody that's going to do something wrong. So beware of me, okay? And I'm a God-fearing person. So I'm protected, everything else. I want to deliver that message to people, okay? Because when people get mad, hey, they may get mad at me. I don't get mad at them. I'm still going to be just me. But they can stay mad all they want at me. I don't care. If you're not going to do right, you can stay mad all you want. Because if you do right, you're not going to be angry with anyone. Okay? But I got issues across the street. So deliver that to your boss across the street. Okay? I'm through. Hey, but I'm
Thank you,
very
Councilman.
serious because I don't want to call people out, and when I start to call them out, I'm gonna call out by name and numbers. And y'all might not like that.
Thanks, sir. We are back to Councilman Warren, Logan, and Swearingen, Washington. Councilman Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, one of the things that is sort of frustrating is that, you know, we're the legislative body and we approve projects and we approve the funding. And we're not really in charge of, you know, how it's initiated and how it's done. That's the way the thing is set up. And, you know, when people come to us as elected officials and want to know why we didn't fix this or why we are not doing X and Y, it's because that's not our job. Okay. I think that as they bring us plans, part of what we have to do is say, okay, that's a good overall plan. Okay. Now bring us the specifics that we need to have. And then, you know, we'll help you explain this to the public. I mean, I know that we've had everyone complaining about when they drive around their neighborhoods, and that's on the main roads, it looks bad. You know, there are bumpers sitting places, there are, you know, poles down, you know, there are cars and stuff sitting around that have been wrecked and things like that. And when you look at that, it really goes out into the neighborhood. So we don't have the money to clean every street and every neighborhood exactly the way we want, but we can start it where it's big and people see it. And in my mind, that's the way that you get them to actually buy on board that we're changing things here. You know, I think we have to have something visible that allows people to see there is a change going on. We're getting the city cleaner. And what better way to do that than by large roads? So, you know, as we're looking at what we need to do, we've been trying to cut ourselves over and over and over again. Ever since I've been on council, we've been asking people, please bring us what you would like to do. What would that cost? Bring us what you would like to do. What would that cost? And I don't think you've been able to do that until this year. And so this year, you're bringing us what you would like to do. I think we need to listen to that and, you know, figure out what it's going to cost. And we need to invest in the city. We've been cutting in this city to where we don't have, you know, maintenance on our equipment. We've been taking equipment and running it to fail and then purchasing emergently. That's not how you run something for the future. We need to plan for the future. We need to budget, and we're going to have to pay for it. And it's going to be hard to pay for it initially. We're going to have to suck it up and figure out what it costs and pay for it. So it sounds good to say, oh, you guys aren't doing what you're supposed to do, and I need more specifics and tell me this and that. But ideally, we're not in charge of specifics. So either you guys are going to take the money and make it work, or you're not. And if you don't, then we have to hold you responsible for not doing it. But I think dumping on them when they bring us a plan isn't really the way to do it. And in my mind,
no plan.
I'd like to do them.
There's no plan.
Mr. JB, I didn't interrupt you when you were talking.
And we're not employees
I didn't
of the
interrupt
mayor.
you, sir.
You're right, but we're not employees of the mayor.
Okay. No, I'm serious. Okay. So, thank you. So, as we look at this, I mean, it's okay to ask those questions, but we shouldn't position ourselves in such a way that we don't think they can do what they say they're going to do if we give them the opportunity, funds, and chance. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Warren. I've got Councilwoman Logan, Swearingen, Washington, and Chair Smiley. Colleagues, if you'll please mind the clock. Thank you.
Brevity. Thank you, Chair. I just had a quick request that when you all come back, and as you said, I love the concept and the overall aspirational idea of it. I would ask that because we represent, and most of us are in the community, we represent the people, they voted us, and it's going to take all of us at every level, not just administration, we're boots on the ground as well. So if we, like you said, you're going to be using nonprofits. Well, some of us know the nonprofits that are very active in the community and productive. And we know some that maybe you all may be using that you never see them in the community. So and we can also pull in, you have churches, you have nonprofits, you have CDCs and all those other groups. So I would like for there to be some type of collaboration among all of us, because a lot of times we can drill down a little bit deeper than you all can and get into the community. We're all, a lot of us busy. So whenever you come up with the plan, if that includes us assisting and working with you all, with the ones that we know. And secondly,
100%.
I would also, I know you had mentioned about a lot of them need to be certified. Well, I had talked to you all about we need to go to the different communities or districts and have certification, have a robust opportunity for people to be certified. Make sure it's easy to become certified if you have a company and want to be in, cutting the grass or doing whatever it is that you all are looking for. So those two things I just would ask that be included or considered or baked into your process.
Very good, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Logan. Councilwoman Swearingen-Washington, and Chair Smiley.
Yes, I wanted to see how we would be able to increase our grass cutting fees.
Are you saying the fee we charge to the owner when we have to cut?
Yes.
Yeah, what do we charge today? And then
Like
what
$95,
yeah,
something
what?
like that?
It's based on the number of hours, and there's an hourly rate to the contractor, so it varies based on the size of the lot. It's about $200 roughly on average. We don't charge administrative fees or fines yet. That is part of what I want to do. So that is going to happen this year.
Okay.
So that will happen this year.
We're going to increase it.
Yes. We're going to start we are allowed under state law, the ordinance to add administrative costs and a fine.
I wanted to also
just got to get the judge support. If someone appeals, we just got to get the judge to support that.
I wanted to also suggest, I know we're doing ComStat and the police department is releasing names of people who have warrants and all of that. It seems like we ought to be able to release the names of all these people that owe fees to the city. And that's okay. Just embarrass them. Maybe they'll be shamed and pay some money towards their fees. Because we're putting a lien on their property, but if your name is publicized on the website, Facebook, and in the news, maybe you'll be inclined to pay the fee. That's some money that could go towards the city, and we wouldn't have to do a tax increase. What do y'all think about that?
Buy a nice segment at the Grizzlies game for the timeouts. Just start putting people's pictures up.
Yeah. And then the last thing I wanted to ask was, where are we on our sewer taps? Wouldn't that be a way that we can generate some money? Have we still been having those conversations?
It'll be in my sewer fund presentation, but that's only for the sewer. You can't use it for the general fund. So anytime you collect the sewer system, the ordinance says you pay into the sewer fund to the right to connect.
And there are if you want Director Connects,
I pay a pilot in exchange back to the city for that right to
it's
have
like $1.9 million, $2 million a year. But I think what would
$10
be
million. Yeah.
I think or that the adjustment this year is
yeah, it went down a little.
What I was going to say is, why don't we do this for those funds just as a precursor? Will your office send us the I don't know if it's the comptroller's office, but the language the state publishes on how funds from enterprise funds can be used and cannot be used. It is very heavily regulated by the comptroller.
Yes, they're not. They're very specifically segmented out and spelled out for what purpose they can be used.
Meaning, mainly it's the expenditures. Like they have to fall within that parameter of expense more than anything. And so, as you've seen in other municipalities, one really local, people in the state and other municipalities have rated their storm and sewer funds, really their sewer funds, or their storm funds rather, for general operating. And so the comptroller is very sensitive to that.
And last question, I asked one of the council people, but I just wanted to hear your response with back at Elvis Presley, because I just have a small portion of Whitehaven within my district. I know that we're waiting on state funds, but have we talked to the people at Graceland? With that area being so close to Graceland, it affects their business. You think is it?
Let's talk to a wall.
Oh, okay.
They are a stakeholder. I don't know we've been able to update them on the status of phase 2 since we've heard about it from the state.
Would they be willing to contribute something?
Well,
people come from all over the world to come to Graceland.
That's a good question. We'd have to explore that, Councilwoman. I don't
It
have
would
an
be
answer
worth
right
it to
now
have
for
a
them.
conversation.
Yes, ma'am. We will, that we can
Sometimes you
engage with
just
them and
ask.
ask. Yes, Councilman.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Give the floor.
Chair Smiley, and then we're going to close the queue so we can move into quickly to the CIP.
Doc, my bad for cutting you off, but there's something in me that had to say something. There's an ordinance that says this body is separate and distinct. Our employees are separate and distinct. Our job is not to just agree with everything that we see. I don't think the constituents would have liked it if we agreed to every proposal that we see. I think our job is to ask critical questions. Our job is to talk to the people about things that we hear to ultimately determine what's in the best interest of the city of Memphis. Just because someone proposes it doesn't mean it's in the best interest of the city of Memphis. There's been times that I propose something and the young lady behind me clearly tells me I lost my mind, and it's okay. Pushback is okay.
Sometimes the lady next
And I have a newer person who tells me I don't know what I'm talking about sometimes too. Her name is Jerry Green. She tells me I don't know what I'm talking about. And Chief Adams also tells me pushback is okay. We're not supposed to simply accept something just because it's presented. And for this body to say we want more specificity, that's okay too. Like, we just can't be afraid of having tough conversations or asking tough questions. You know, I tell everybody I like a good argument. If Chief Allen presents a good argument, I'll be like, kudos to you. But if we are not presented with a good argument, if we're not presented with a good plan, we're supposed to call that out as well. Like, that's literally the responsibility of this body. We don't have power to control how the administration does business, but we do have power to control what we fund. And it's still my position. If we don't have specificity regarding a project, if we haven't seen a project do well before, we probably shouldn't be funding it. That's all. But all love, though.
Thank you, Chairman Smiley. Can't make a little fire without some friction. All right, let's.
One thing.
Yes, sir.
Pertaining to if and kind of live off of us.
Yes, sir.
They want us to give them everything, but they never do anything back. I live right at Graceland. Okay. Sometime when you say, hey, here's a little something and help the other, they sell us out, okay? That's why I said, don't elect the wrong people that will sell you out, okay? Because they were supposed to be doing something in my backyard. Hell, we got sold out by some of the people that work here. And hell, they haven't done anything, especially with that amphitheater and everything else. But when they have things, hell, we be up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because of them. They have not done anything. Okay, they're not going to do anything unless we do something for them. That's all they've ever wanted. They ain't going nowhere, so I hope they listening too. Okay? Ain't that many people coming to see Elvis no more anyway. No, the biggest thing that ever hit Memphis was the Church of God in Christ. If somebody want to talk about something, not Elvis. Hey, when the 16th, hey, it's not that many people anymore that's coming there. Not only that, they sell us out because, hey, you go there and they will tell you, look, you keep Elvis Presley Boulevard until you get to the Mississippi line and you'll get to Goodman Road. That's where you go to get everything that you want. They don't send them to the city. I'm being honest now. And I really hope they listen because they are terrible people. Okay? Yeah. But like I said, some of us is the reason why. Because all they do is invite you and give you this, and you will say no, and it don't make no difference no more. And I'm a witness of all of that. That's why I said, I don't want to call nobody's names, and I will, okay? But I'm very serious, okay? Because we're in turmoil right now. This city, and I'm concerned about it. Okay, that's the only reason why I'm here. I really don't have to be here. But I'm concerned about this city and the people that live in the city of Memphis. I'm not concerned about the people that come here from Arkansas, Mississippi, Tipton County, and all these other places coming here. Okay? And I'm not about the people that everything that they want. And it's these little so-called groups, okay? That kind of hold us back sometimes. Okay, and this group know who I'm talking to. I really hope they listening too. Because, you know, maybe they need to be some of the ones that come in and put some money somewhere. Okay, instead of always wanting us to give them money. They need to come and put some of this money back with us. Okay? And they know who I'm talking about. I'm gonna be quiet because, hey, I got a lot to say before this budget is settled, y'all. Because like I said, I'm concerned about this city of Memphis, okay? I'm not concerned about nobody but the people that live here. And I want everything to fall in line and make sure that this city is being taken care of because, hey, we've missed out on a lot of different things in this city, okay?
Thank you, Councilman. All right, let's run through CIP budget. Let me be very specific on this one. If it is not in fiscal year 25, I don't want to hear about it because it does not exist.
It will not exist in this conversation.
Yeah, okay.
All right, we're one down, 5 to go, right? So yeah, 5 presentations. All right, so Public Works, CIP General Fund. There's a total of $17 million allocated for the CIP for Public Works. The first allocation is $10 million in paving. But each one of you have been given a handout. You can go through it at your leisure. It kind of outlines how the paving of 92 lane miles is going to be done and by what road type. So that's provided to you for FY25. Holmes Road from Horn Lake. I'm going down in the list that I have. Next one I have is PW01.
Is Holmes Road a city-led project only, or is it matching funds?
So there is a section that is 100% city. Let me see which one is that menu.
It's all right. You don't have to.
I have it.
Okay. I was just gonna to the point, just for the record, that it's a match.
Yeah. So from Holmes Road from Horn Lake to the railroad is 100% city. So that $3 million allocation, so that project we're talking about from Horn Lake that shows Holmes Road from Horn Lake to the railroad is 100% city.
All right, what's the plan for the sidewalks cover line? We all know how the paving is going to work. The sidewalks cover line is something that came about in the last council. Do you want to talk briefly about? So obviously, council members, it's cover line. So you'll approve the money, and then as they want to spend money, they will come back on Tuesdays and say, we want to spend $150,000 to do the following, and we're going to appropriate it from this cover line. So that's what this cover line is doing. So do you want to talk about the sidewalks plan?
Yes, sir. So,
okay. And before we get into this, I'll just go ahead and answer your question. To redo all the sidewalks is impossible.
Yes.
So it's kind of like cutting grass in the sense that the need is greater than we are able to fulfill. And so I'll go ahead and answer that question for you. However, if you find 7 votes, you can get as much money for something as you want. But we've tried to increase the amount of funding for sidewalk programming over the last 3 years so that outside of projects, there is some form of repair and or assistance as this happens. All right. Microphone, council member.
That $9 million, is that part of the reconstruction and everything on that?
Yes, sir, it is.
That part of it also. I just want to make sure on that part because coming back, and that's going to be over there near the school.
Yes, sir.
Which was important to me. Because that money, and let me just explain something before. Hey, we had a meeting and everything, and they're supposed to widen Holmes Road. Holmes Road, that's why I said people mistreat us. That money was allocated how many years ago? 20-something years ago when I was on the council, okay?
That's a long project.
Long project, but you know what? What happened to that project? We weren't on top of things. We have to be on top of it now. They did work on Holmes Road, but hell, it was in East Memphis, Holmes Road. They took our money. Director, I was on y'all about that, and I wanted to make sure, and that's the only reason why I'm on the council too, because I want to make sure that project does not go back out east. But they took all of our money 20-something years ago. That's why, hey, I want to make it clear, hey, that money is for that purpose in the black area. And it actually starts at 3rd Street, which is 61 Highway coming all the way back. Okay?
Will
I
you
just
guys
need to
produce a
make that
map
clear.
showing that improvement? Yeah, that'd be great. I think, especially for those members that
But
represent that
that
area.
spot where we're talking about, because we kind of did it because we had the school there, which was having a lot of problems. So
Yeah.
that's what, yes.
The 2-lane, yeah.
Yes, so, hey, that's part of the 3rd, but we wanted to include that part where the school is to protect the children and everything, okay? I just wanted to make that clear with everybody what we did on that.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, let's do sidewalks.
Yeah, so it's a $1 million allocation. Engineering and Director Blinn is here with me. They have a plan. We have a list of already eligible candidates.
All right, let's stop right there then. Let's do this. Let's email that list to the body on Tuesday. Let's kick that list and that discussion to Public Works Committee so that we can talk through, because it's more that, look, it's a funding issue right here, but then we're so far behind, honestly, that I'd rather have that. I'd just rather have the operational conversation. What I don't want to do is go council member by council member right now trying to figure out which 100 yards of sidewalk is going to get done and when. I'd rather have that on a Tuesday talking about the operations of it rather than the funding of it. I think everybody is on board. I'd rather just get into that list, so to speak, because it's more of an operational conversation than it is a financing conversation.
And they have their draft cost share program that we're trying to fund.
That's what I'm talking about.
So those are the
Yeah.
two big pieces that we'd like to talk about.
I think especially because I don't want to call it novel. It's not, but it is relatively new. I think we take. Yeah, I think we take that on a Tuesday when more people are tuned in and we can talk more about the operations of launching that. If you're cool with that. Yeah, go ahead, Manny.
Yes, sir. Manny Belen with the Division of Engineering. So historically, the council has approved $500,000 for sidewalk, and that was to repair oftentimes just city facility sidewalks and what have you. This year, we are asking for $1 million. Half of that, $500,000, would still be towards repair of sidewalk, but the other half is towards a new program, which is the cost sharing program. And we are ready to present that cost sharing program to the body, and we'll present that to the discretion, whether it's committee.
And you guys are veterans, but I would suggest to you that you start, get us the info, email the info out, and then try and start to try and get into it so we can make the conversation flow better. I'll say it that way. Before we sit down, and I don't know that we'll have time this Tuesday. If we do, great. If not, we'll figure it out. But all right, let's keep
the
going.
rest of them. So 88 curb ramps is $1 million, a continuation. That's just to repair the curb ramps throughout the city. We're doing about 3% of our inventory.
Yeah.
With that funding, we still got a number of years to go. Bridge repair cover line, $800,000. That's a continuation. You know, we were going to typically do 2 to 4 emergency bridge repairs with that funding. There's two already identified for FY25. There'll be further more to come. We actually have a list of outstanding ones, but the priority is the 2 that will be funded.
Are you guys going to receive any state or federal funding? Okay.
We always go after it,
Right.
but it's not easy. Not always. The amount of time it takes to get it, and these kind of are like when you talk about a wreck on a bridge and they took out the guardrail.
No, I mean, I get the
safety
emergency
rail,
repairs. Yeah. I guess my thing is that we just had a multi-billion-dollar, a really trillion-dollar infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I know the state of West Tennessee got like 92 million or 92 billion, maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the point is that I know a lot of those were road, bridge, and so I just didn't know where we stacked in there. But we can put a
go
pin.
after the 80-20 grant match all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
And after the NPO, and then do whenever opportunities come.
Perfect.
So, yes,
all right.
But this is more like emergency repairs to our 400 bridges. We have 400 bridges in the city. Accidents happen, and we can't leave them in an unsafe condition. You talk about sidewalks, STBG repaving. There is going to be funding through the MPO for large-scale paving of major thoroughfares. So we're just programming money for that bucket that's going to happen. So that'll help contribute 20% towards more paving. We just don't know what it will be yet. So there is an allocation for that. Harbor Avenue, we made this commitment to resurface and redo the major roadways down President's Island. They're in poor condition. We can't go back and do a standard repaving. It's going to be a heavy industrial repaving.
Yeah,
like
so you're going to
rebuilding the
you're
whole
going to mill it
roadway.
out and resurface
Like we're doing at Parkway, where that roadway failed because of heavy truck traffic. This is going to be the same thing. Channel and Harbor both have to be redone. We're just
concrete or
programming
heavy duty asphalt.
Yeah, and this is going to be
Heavy
80-20
duty.
match.
It's cement. It will be cement treated.
Yeah, that's
base,
what-
simply because the cement.
Yeah,
we
the
looked
heavy-
at cement and the price cost on the concrete is so high.
You can't maintain it like you can asphalt.
And that is a grant funded project, so it's 80-20.
Yeah, that would be 80-20. And then last one is Audubon mitigation. What does that mean? Part of the Holmes Road work is, we're gonna have to offset some of the improvements necessary. So TDEC has what they call a mitigation banking. So we have to look for locations where we can do a mitigation improvement. And so that we're doing it in
$70,000
Audubon for work related to Holmes Road.
Perfect. All right. Let's move on to storm.
Stormwater budget?
Yeah, but I mean, here's the jam. I only want you to look, everybody here can read.
Okay.
I think I can most of the days. What I would like for you to touch on is any major variances and why. So, and just very briefly, this number is going up 12.5% because I want to hire X number of people, or we realigned. And like, other than that, if it's, please don't read it to me, line by line.
I promise I'll do mine.
All right, and then we'll get into your CIP, which is where the majority.
All right,
are. I mean, look, there's a lot of funding and design, et cetera, but
Yes, sir.
okay.
So.
So wait, I'm sorry. We storm.
try
Did I
to
say
be-
storm first? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you said storm, so I went there. I'll try to be expeditious in terms of stormwater. This is the operating budget for stormwater. It is a utility. I have two utilities, storm and they're both separate utilities, funded separately. They're paid by MLGW bill fees on the MLGW bill. The average citizen pays about $6 a month, and this goes into this revenues for the operating of the system and the capital improvement of the system. So. First slide is just an overview. I won't read it because it's not really anything of importance. The strategic priorities, the biggest one is I want to create a harbor team to do harbor inspections, Wolf River, and down in McKellar Lake because of the issues we have. And so I want to increase that operationally with existing vacant funded positions. But it's a good program to help make our waterways look cleaner. Going through expenditures, there is a $36.5 million adopted for last year. We're requesting a $39 million for FY25, which is a $2.9 million change. I'll explain that. There's $11 million in encumbrance roll forward as well. So just as we mentioned a second ago, how does that funding change? But we're carrying some forward. So if you look at the next slide, the comparative spending. So the biggest piece of it is public works, stormwater. There's a small piece in engineering that allocation for increase, but it's minor. Most of it's going to happen in the stormwater budget, Terry said, and I'll explain in the next slides where that breakdown happens. So if you look at slide 7, salaries, most of it's going to be negotiations and proposed increases on the personnel side, professional services, and being the next big impact on the budget. There's a separate slide for that. I'll go over that. And we pay cash for our fleet. We don't do bonds for fleet and storm and sewer. We use PayGo because of to me, it's a better investment versus debt.
I'll explain it twofold. One, it doesn't matter what debt is we can't pile debt on, period, even if it's secured by that revenue, and it's just easier for us. Full stop.
Yes, sir. So that's been my philosophy for a while, and we've been doing it that way. So that gives that breakdown. And then if you go to the bridge analysis on revenue, we are projecting some slight revenue increase on our fees for services to natural growth. You'll see that in the sewer as well. Next slide is same slide. Let's move on quickly to personnel. There is no changes in personnel. We have 17 vacancies. They're all posted. Let's go on to major M&S, which is slide 15. It's trying to be expeditious. The major expenditure types you'll see are outside equipment repair, outside vehicle repair, and the miscellaneous professional services, fleet costs and maintenance being covered there, and then professional services. And then on the next slide, you'll see what the breakdown is. So litter and grass mowing of channels on slide 16 is $900,000. All World for the it's work associated with their efforts with MSQ2 partially is funded out of operating. We have a big AI project, as I mentioned, for curb and gutter. There is a separate handout kind of outlining what that's going to be done for using that for inventory. And then various vendors. So that slide. So again, I think I'm moving through to MWE, which is same as before, so done. So we'll go to CIP. For ask me any questions.
Yeah, if we can let them go through the CIP, and then we'll take storm op and CIP together, just to keep us moving.
Okay, yes, so storm CIP. All right, sorry. Get to this slide, go to the next slide. So the stormwater fund does, again, fund different projects. So let's go down curb and gutter miscellaneous. Let's see, is that the first one up? Yeah, curb and gutter. We're allocating $500,000 to do repair curb and gutter. That is a section along the asphalt roadway that actually conveys stormwater. So it's a justified expense, and we've been managing it and maintaining it with stormwater funds since the stormwater fund came into existence. I mentioned the detection model to maintenance, so we can identify and repair. We have about 3,200 miles of it, so we got to maintain that as part of our asset management. The next one is the design cover line, $13.2 million. That funds the MSQ2 program for the master planning. We're doing a huge master plan effort citywide. We got 37 basins. We've completed 60% of the studies. We're going to continue that. That's flooding mitigation and alternative analysis to address flooding. The funding is broken out. You'll see below where we use revenue bonds, WIFIA. There's a separate handout for WIFIA. I don't know if you've handed that out or not.
Yeah, we talked about
now.
So we talked about WIFIA, and why don't you just go ahead and touch on that? Just because when we had Chief Person and the mayor in the room when we talked about major funding sources, I had mentioned WIFIA, and just because we have so many members, I thought it might be helpful just to have this handout so you understand that it's significant, and not only in its proceeds, but in it's a very benevolent program. So why don't you just touch briefly on what it does, why we use it, and why it's good for us.
Yes, sir. So WIFIA and SRF are huge opportunities for us. SRF is better than WIFIA, actually, technically, and there's a separate handout for SRF. Yeah, because the state revolving fund, but they're both EPA-funded programs, and there's a match from the state, but WIFIA does not have any state involvement. It's 100% EPA. They publicize every year the funding opportunity for Water Infrastructure Financing Improvement Act, WIFIA, and those programs, you apply for it. It's competitive. They're very good terms. 35 years, you can get a loan up to 35 years. It's up to 49% of the cost of the project. Now, they only want big projects. They're not big. These are not small projects. So like 20 million is kind of the minimum. But they 35-year financing, 5 years deferred for your first payment. So they have just a great program. The interest rate is better than bonds, but not better than SRF. So, but it has been very competitive. The stormwater WIFIA was 1.7, which was very low, because that was with the yield at the time. Yeah, SRF is free, 0.5% interest is free, but they very good terms. Again, and they only for drinking water projects only though. SRF is very similar, but that's a state fund where it's 80%, 20%. The state contributes, I think, 20%. Or 16%, it's one of those, 16%. We've been very fortunate. We've borrowed $261 million in state revolving funds since 2006. Interest rates have been 0.55 to 2.5. You can't go to market anywhere near that.
It's such a good program.
So, and it's been only on the sewer side, but great programs, great opportunities for us to leverage money. $260 million we borrowed.
Over what period?
Since 2006.
So, yeah.
And interest rates of 0.5% interest to 2.5% interest. The WIFIA has been 1.7, I think, and sewer was 1.36 was the low one, and it was on the, I'm sorry, stormwater was 4%, right? I don't see Walter.
Do we have to put,
like roughly 4%?
Do we have to put do we have to stand behind that debt?
Yes, we do. The sewer, so the enterprise.
So we at least have to
funds,
book it.
Go through. Council approves it, right? We have to do our master bond requirement. It means that this is a senior debt, senior lien.
So it's on the books.
So it is higher in terms of our requirement. Yes.
Sure. Okay.
So let's see, back to the presentations. So we were talking curb and gutter. I'm sorry, no, the design cover line. We are now going on to the construction one, which is drainage cover line. That's where we're going to actually do the construction of these kind of the things we've identified. MSQ2 again we've heard about them. They're the program managers. So we're using WIFIA, revenue bonds, and cash to do these construction projects. The WIFIA was $51.1 million for stormwater, and that was the one we mentioned a second ago. Moving on to flood mitigation. And again, we have to deal with flooding citywide, so we have to buy property to do detention or retention projects. So this money helps us to acquire property in terms of the efforts to, if we have to buy out a property or get rid of a property or retain a property for flooding. Moving on. Yes, sir.
Oh.
Which 60 million? I know we got 60 million initially from DPD for flooding mitigation. We're going to spend a bunch of it at South Cypress Creek. Yeah.
Oh, is this the?
This is the ACD, the money that came in for the flood mitigation.
Yeah, but what was the project up in your district that?
South Cypress Creek.
Yeah.
We are getting funding for that. Yes. Yeah, we did get that. We are getting grant funding for that. Yes.
Yes, sir. The city is receiving some of that $60 million for the resilience grant. So, and it will be applied to that particular project.
Is that in? It's going to the Barber's Park. Yeah.
It goes all the way to Millington and everywhere else.
Yeah, they got 50% roughly.
I think it's just South Memphis, but where all these floods are, it's a big part of it. That's why we make sure some of that.
You're right. Rodney Baber Park and South Cypress Creek were the two parks that we were allocated our share of it. The Millington got it for the Big Bear Creek. Yes, there was 3 big projects. Yes.
There you go. Okay, I just want to make sure. So, it didn't go to everybody.
All right, it's my fault. I'm losing control of the queue here. I'm sorry. That's hold on. Hold on. Let's bring this back in really quickly. All right, we're done with the CIP. All right, so
pretty much.
All right, so Canale, Swearingen, Washington, and Cooper Sutton, and this is only for storm, only stormwater operating CIP. So if it's for public works, general fund, or if it's for sewer, hang tight. But for storms, Councilman Canale. All right, Canale's good. Swearingen, Washington's good. Councilwoman Cooper Sutton.
Stormwater, like drainage projects. To mitigate flooding, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so I think we talked about an address, a property.
It may be. Like for example, on Santa Clara, down there in the Mississippi line years ago, that flooding kept happening because of flooding from Mississippi. We couldn't find a solution, so we bought those properties out using these funds. So when we have a property that we just can't figure out any other way to abate flooding, we may buy it out, yes. That's just how the program works. We got to go through a lot of steps, though. Yes. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. There's funding in there for Toronto for flooding over there. Yeah, there may not be a buyout, but there are projects associated with that. Yes. Yes, ma'am. There was easements we were trying to get. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yes, but there is funding and a concept to move forward with. Yes. Yes.
I need to know that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Councilwoman Swearingen, Washington.
When it came to the account details and professional services on page 16, I just wanted to know of these companies, which ones were minorities?
So All World is is obviously a minority-owned business, local business. Rotello RCI is a 49% goal, so 49% of what they spend is a SBE. ABS is 100%.
ABES?
Yeah. RCI. So under they're the main contractor. Their subcontracting requirement is a 49% local spend.
Local or minority?
The local minority, both. SBE.
Yeah.
Small business, under MWBE. So they're 49% goal.
Okay.
All World is 100%, if I recall. ABS is 100%. Their local. Google is just they're specialized. There's no way for them. Landmark Construction, they have a goal. I can't remember what it is. I have to check on the response to that one. And the various vendors, there's so many in there, but there's quite a few that there are going to be SBE.
Yeah, the wrap-up's on 18.
Yeah.
What did you say about the various vendors? They're what?
I mean,
About
under
$3
various
million.
vendors, because it's 3.3 million. That's we're talking mostly 100,000. Well, anything under 200,000. There's I don't know. There's probably going to be 100 vendors in there. Many of them are going to be local minority vendors.
Okay.
But my spend is my total spend, as you see the final slide 18 is 23% total spend, all funds local MWBE.
Only 20%.
Well, $38 million, because a lot of it is some of it's eligible, some is ineligible, but that's where we are with out of $138 million, we spend $38 million in local spend. SBE.
So we can have OBDC come in to a regular Tuesday and talk about it. But basically each and every contract that goes through the city goes to OBDC
for goal
and for the goal, and they identify whether there is someone eligible, how much they are eligible for, et cetera. Right? There are certain things that we do. Cars are probably the easiest one. We will, in the near term, there will not be a minority section to purchasing automobiles because there's not a local minority firm that can do that work. The other thing that I'll just try and clarify, because I caught it in the middle, is we use contractor very broadly. A contractor could be someone that we contract with to provide modems. It also can be what you typically think about, which is like a general contractor, somebody that is going to coordinate a massive installation project of sewer and storm systems. And that individual is the person responsible for bidding out to the subs who's going to pour concrete, who's going to do the dirt work, all of that. So they've got the master contract, and they are required to spend, and in this instance, 49% of, let's just say the contract's $1 million. They have to spend $490,000 with minority subcontractors within that master contract. And so I think just to try, and then we take all of that data, wrap it up, and get to the slide you see on 18. And that's what Director Connect's really saying is look, I mean, if any council member wants a list, we can get a list provided of those contractors, but because the projects that they do are so high price tagged, we don't list out people that are getting $50,000 to $200,000 contracts. Not that those aren't important to those firms, but in the grand scheme of $1 billion storm budget or sewer budget, it's peanuts. So it's hard to just list them out. I hope that clarifies that.
It does. Thank you.
And then one thing to think about, some things are sheltered market, which means that only SBEs get, only MWBs, like in the grass mitigation, 100%. We have so many of those vendors that we can only market to local minority businesses. So those are great opportunities where we 100% local minority businesses.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Cooper Sutton.
I would think I've answered my own question.
Perfect.
Go back to 3, and I've answered my own question.
And
Fantastic.
I'm here for any questions she needs, yes.
I think I've answered it.
All right, let's hit sewer, bio waste. Here
So let's
we
go to the
come.
operating side first.
And as he's getting ready, Robert's got all the money.
All right.
All the money. But I always say this. I think this is the important thing is he has 800 employees. He runs 2 utilities. It's a lot of moving pieces. I think the thing that I would say for council members is always just for him in particular is CIP and some of the operations, like curb and gutter. So like if you're having an issue in your district where there's a crumbling there's always a flooding area, but it's on a hard, paved road, and then you notice that the storm sewer is starting to crumble in, or the curb is crumbled in. Those are things to go and talk to them about their CIP budget that he can go and look at. Mainly, it's just people not throwing their bags of leaves on the street. But so,
yes, sir. So Rob, this is the sewer fund. So I do want to talk a little bit. Just bear with me on this, because this is probably the most important thing that I do, and one of the most important things we do. Because without a functioning sanitary sewers collection and treatment system, we don't have a city. Yeah, and they're separate. Their storm system and our sewer system are completely separate. Most cities would die for that. So our forefathers were very smart and said, we want to keep these two systems separate. What is really important about this is the most highly regulated industry in the U.S. Because of the influence of what we do. If you think about what happens, what we receive, what we have to do with it before it gets discharged to Mississippi River, it's mind-blowing. We also serve 850,000 people with services. I serve 2 states. Nobody else does that. Yeah, I still serve Horn Lake, Mississippi under the contract.
Yeah, so
the judge ruled in our favor, but we have 8 to 10. They have 8 to 10 years to come off.
And that's all. So I'm going to address this because it potentially could be pending litigation. So we are currently, federal judge Mark Norris ruled in favor of the city to terminate over a period of 8 to 10 years our agreement to service Horn Lake, Mississippi.
But the Horn Lake Sewer District.
Horn Lake Sewer District. Sorry, that's all I want. That's all we need to discuss, because the rights of the appellant are still preserved. Yeah, and so it's still technically considered active. And so I think let's just leave it at that.
Yes, sir. But it's currently we serve 2 states, 8 cities, 2 unincorporated areas, one in DeSoto, one in Shelby. Again,
and if anybody wants a brief, we can have an attorney-client meeting. By the way, I just want.
But currently, that's the status. But it is again one of the most highly regulated, and it's very, very important. So, all right. So, moving on to the strategic priorities, I won't hit that again. It's just generally what we plan to do. The biggest things are the 3.0, and then our continued efforts with our permitting and permitting compliance. We are heavily permitted and regulated. Moving on to slide 5. So our biggest, we do project a $3.7 million change in FY25 request over adopted, and there is a healthy encumbrance roll forward. We have a big emergency 96 sewer under repair, and so that in sewer line that is servicing 400,000 people with sewer is failing, and so we have to do an emergency repair, bypass, and set it up and do construction. It's an $18 to $20 million emergency project. So that's why you're going to have a carry forward from 1 year over year of that magnitude. Moving on to the next slide, you'll see the breakdown of comparative spend of where we plan to put those funds. The majority of the funding comes to the Public Works and Environmental Engineering. We also fund the sewer design and engineering. There are 13 ISLs for this request for the sewer fund. I have those broken out. I will just say that they're needed, and I can explain that quickly when we get to that point in personnel. But a lot of the program spending adopted is related to the ISLs. On to the next slide, slide 7, you'll see the changes in expenditures. Salaries at $1.3 million. A big piece of that is ISLs plus the proposed increases. We have some other minor changes in terms of service charges and chemicals, and I'll explain that. Vehicles and capital outlay, we pay cash. We have some needs in our treatment plants for some major equipment, so a lot of the increases are going to go to those equipments, that equipment that runs our plants that we invest in to kind of make sure they're functioning. So that's the breakdown of 3.7, and there's more details further. On the revenue side, you'll see where we have projected revenue increases because our charge for services, again, everybody pays their sewer on their MLGW bill, their sewer fees. However,
well, and also impact fees.
We charge
and the impact fees, right?
Yeah. Well, so our revenues are primarily derived from fees, but we also have to charge for anybody who wants to tap into our sewer system. Anybody who wants to expand or extend sewers, we have to enter into agreements to do cost share. And then all of these, we have 100 industries who we charge special fees to. We call them ATC, additional treatment costs. So like some companies pay $12, $13 million in special fees every year just for the right to discharge to us because they're what they call high or heavy industrial or high strength wastewater dischargers, and we permit them. So that's the main driver of fees, but we are projecting roughly a $2.5 million increase due to natural growth and what we see based on our tracking of our frequency of our revenues. And that's really described on slide 10 better. You'll see sewer fees, $2.5 million, sewer inspection fees, and the other sewer availability fees are smaller amounts, but those are revenues. Let's see, moving on to the slide 13 about the division authorized complement. This slide is wrong. It should be 12 in public works and 1 in sewer design. It's 13 total. It's in the budget, but this slide is just wrong. So it's 13 total positions that we are requesting to increase the complement of. They're all, in the public works side, they're all on the treatment plant side. Just in order to run the plants and some of the initiatives of maintenance, we just need to increase the staffing to serve the plan that's been outlined.
And this is Robert and I talked about this over the summer. This environmental engineering is a statewide and it's almost a national emergency. TASR met, and one of the hottest topics of discussion were these environmental engineers. There's a gentleman who testified, and he 35 years in the business, was in retirement, had to come out of retirement to facilitate a small county's waste treatment facility. And so the state is studying how they can support local municipalities in this area in particular. We are far better off than the majority of our counterparts across the state.
Yes.
But it is a huge struggle.
Yeah. We done well in our consent decree, and we talk about that later. But yeah, wastewater grade operators, grade 4, are required to be on staff. We run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. These plants cannot shut down. So we have to have staffing, and we have to have the right people with the right licensing to do it. Otherwise, we violate the law. So, and working at a treatment plant is specialized. I'm sorry. If you've never been to one and had to work at one, you don't have an appreciation for what they do. It is they're not making ice cream. That's what I say. It's just, it's a much more interesting experience. So if you look at the next slide, 15, where you break down the major M&S, we spend a lot of money. 51% of our total budget goes to M&S. Chemicals are huge. Professional services are huge. Utilities are huge. And we have a plan with the solar project to offset this because we spend $13 million a year to MLGW. It is what it is. But we are going to try to offset that with our solar project. Going on to slide 16, you'll see the major breakdown of our professional services. So like ACUF does our emergency sewer repair at various locations. We do a lot in-house, but because we have 3,200 miles of sewers in Shelby County that we're responsible for, not the other ones that we serve, but just what we're responsible for, we need help. We have to do a lot of sewer cleaning. We do it in-house, but we have to subsidize this because we can't have sewer overflowing, backing up. That would be a violation of our permit and a violation of our consent decree. We do a lot of bypass pumping because when you're cleaning or repairing, sewer still flows, so you have to set up a bypass where you plug the pipe, pump it around into the next available location so you can do that work. It's not safe to do it when it's under flow most of the time. CIPP, this is a fancy way of saying cured in place pipe, which is trenchless rehab. It's much more advantageous to do that kind of work versus an open trench, digging up the street and disrupting traffic. Beasley, we do a repair of our, when we do a street cut, they have to repair it, so we comply with the utility cut standards. And then Malarzi is a professional engineering. W&T, they are local. This is a great story, 100% local company. SBE, MWBE, who we use to do repairs. And Brown & Caldwell is specialty engineering. Moving on. Leases, we have one lease. We lease 800 acres of land in Pigeon Industrial down there for the anaerobic lagoons and our biosolids. It'll be our solar project. It's a deal for $85,000, and it's a huge benefit. I won't go into that. And then the last one you're aware of. And then you want to do CIP, right?
No, I want to skip it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Well, it's a big ask. So
it is a big ask, but most of these are in. Most of these things are in. They're already in process.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody has a specific question, I mean, it's usually the cover lines.
Yeah.
I mean, only because I'd rather just have, again, the project list email than go line by line and just yeah. And we're just so far behind.
understand. It's-
Okay.
I'm glad to answer any questions. About
Yeah, any
sewer
questions
capital,
as
sewer.
it relates to sewer CIP or its operations?
Come do a tour with me and see it in real life.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a big operation. I'm just trying to think.
We're spending $320 million at our south plant. We need to spend $320 million at the north plant.
And how
too.
long has that project been going on?
The south plant is in year 4, but you got
Yeah.
a couple of years left.
Right.
Just realize that I need to ultimately spend about $1.9 billion on our sewer system over the future to keep it going and to grow for the city. So it is going to there's going to be some need for some modifications in our rate structure in the future. I don't have a choice after 5 years. So, but not now.
Well, hopefully the collective we do our job and we get growth, and so it's organic as opposed to raising the fee. So, all right. With that, I appreciate it. It's always fun to talk bio waste. But in all sincerity, look, Public Works is a massive division, 800 employees, billions of dollars flow through it. It's very important, but it's also very complicated and complex. So I appreciate it. And I'll leave you with 2 questions that I don't want to get into now. We can talk about them offline. But one is we'll come back and wrap up and probably talk more about code, especially with you guys, kind of bifurcating that. And then 2, on a lot of these contractors that we utilize for these major spends, I'd be curious to know if any of them are interested in relationships with our school systems and or TCAT. I'd be much more willing to boost contracting pay or create incentive programs within our structure if they'd be willing to do the work to reach out or apprentice or open up apprenticeships that they don't necessarily have today because they can't afford them, if it helps us try and grow the pipeline.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
We have mentor protege.
It's a better
program.
way. It's a better way to do job training than granting money to like an ethereal organization that's going to set up the training itself, right?
Yes, sir. And
But
we've
we're
talked
using-
about that. We use
Yeah.
mentor proteges now with big contractors and low, and we've had some success. So that is those type of programs exist. We just need to expand them.
Totally. It's basically a nice way to lean on your partner, so to speak.
It's like joint ventures, but on a different scale.
It's
and
joint
that-
venture with a hostile partner, saying wink, wink. I'm not asking. But we can't. But instead of bringing the stick, we want to bring the carrot and say, look,
Yep.
yeah, it's worth looking into.
Understood.
Yeah.
No, it is.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Let's get Ashley Cash up here. HCD.
Okay, thank you. You been sitting there? I'm pretty good, pretty good. Having fun yet? You too. Good answer. Y'all got our, do we need, oh, perfect, okay. Yes. And then you got CLP? Okay.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Okay, all right. See, I got mine. I know doing the clicking. We've got our federal budget. We're gonna come in June. That's really where the exciting stuff is. Here's just personnel, and we are increasing. We're trying to, we're doing a couple of 28%, but I mean, you're talking about $700,000. So, okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah. For this, yeah, yeah. We're, then just, okay. Keep it going. Okay.
All right, if you are not here to talk all things housing or listen, move along now. Move along, Robert. All right, Director Cash, welcome. If you could have your name and title for the record, if you'd like to introduce anybody or highlights on all things HCD, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chair. We appreciate y'all. So I'm Ashley Cash, Housing Director, Housing and Community Development Director, 170 North Main. I will ask Ms. Starr to introduce herself.
I'm Star Nichols, Deputy Director of Housing and Community Development, 170 North Main.
Thank you. And Director Cash, will you repeat what you just said to me about the federal, about the federal budget so that we're crystal clear
Yes.
about what we're talking about today?
So most of our operating budget is primarily going to be our personnel costs. We've got a couple of community grants that we do out of here, probably totaling $400,000, a little bit more. But the majority of our work is through our federal budget. We will bring that budget back to y'all. We're trying to get on June 4th, so it'll be the first or second meeting in June. So all of our programmatic stuff, the exciting, fun things, that's in the federal side.
So, and if I stop you, please don't be mad at me. It's only because I'd rather have that conversation then.
Okay.
And I think it's important. CIP will kind of do the same thing because a lot of what we're funding, we're trying to match with federal dollars, but we'll just kind of feel our way through it.
Okay, you ready? All right. Do you want to click the button? Thank you. That's just our org structure, our service center. You can go to the next slide. So these are our priorities. Of course, we're trying to meet the mayor's priorities. Obviously, we have the housing focus, but clean neighborhoods. Here's how we are looking to be supportive in these areas, really on the prevention side more so than the intervention side. Our expenditures. So we've got here our FY24 funding budget and our FY25 request. Our biggest request is really in that personnel side. That's a little bit over $700,000. Those are some salary increases. Those are a couple of new positions that we're trying to create, which y'all will see a little bit later in the presentation. I do want to note a little bit over half of all of our salaries are covered by HUD, so the city pays first. And then if you see on that third line, our personnel expense recovery, about $2.2 million, the city will get that back. We do expense recovery each month to reimburse the city. And so while we are requesting an increase, a lot of that is paid back through our federal grant. The other piece I'll just mention down at the bottom, you see we've got decreases in a lot of these areas. We've tried to maximize our spending in M&S, but in our grants and subsidies, which is good news, we are asking for a little bit of an increase there. Next slide, please. So this is by each service center. Administration is more than just what you would think about with administration. So we have people who do planning. We have to submit certain plans to HUD. We have a team that does our compliance there in that administration bucket. And strategic initiatives, I think, is administration, our finance and accounting team. So there are a lot of people that make up that service center. Housing is what it sounds like where our affordable housing activities take place. We have some economic development activities, and then community initiatives is where our neighborhood engagement and our homeless and special needs activities are. We don't operate a business center anymore. We've got a negative balance out there, so it showed up on the report, and then we have a service center that's no longer funded here. And I didn't mention our total request is for this year, $5.7 million. You can go to the revenues. I think is that next. I skipped too far. All right, so these are our changes year over time. So we already mentioned in the personnel where we have the additions, we've got salaries, some raises that are being proposed, and then a couple of new positions that we are trying to support. Everything else in that personnel category are benefits that we don't really control. On our materials and supplies, we kept a lot of it baseline, but we did look at how much we've spent over the past year and made some reductions. So we made some reductions in shop fuel and computer services. We did a big computer replacement project a couple of years ago where we replaced laptops and everything. And so we had budgeted for that at that time. We don't need that budget now. We do less supplies. We've decreased our professional services, and then we decreased our supplies outside. So you can see where we made those reductions in our materials and supplies budget. And then other expenses, these are where we do some city grants. So we do a handful of grants and our down payment assistance through city funds just because it's more flexible It's easier for certainly smaller nonprofits and CDCs to take advantage, and it's easier for us to be able to deploy funds if there's like an emergency issue that we want to support. And so in our community development grants, we're asking for an increase of $91,000. I believe that's normally funded at $200,000. Is that right, Star? On community development grants, and those are our small neighborhood partnership grants that we give out. For example, last year, I think we gave some to Rise Foundation, Uplift Memphis, Alcee Ball CDC, just different organizations, and that's a competitive grant process. Social services, those are different types of funding. We provide support to our event, A Taste of Memphis, which is our annual neighborhood block party event. It's September 19th. This year, the division, provide some support for that event, and then we also receive sponsorships to make up the difference. And then our middle income housing program, down payment assistance. So down payment assistance is $80,000, and then our middle income housing program is an increase of $183,000. These are both down payment assistance programs for the city. One bucket is for people who are in the low to moderate income, 80% or lower of the area median income. Those are incomes around that $40,000, $45,000 mark. And then the others are, there's no income restriction, but you either have to be a policeman, policeman or woman, fire personnel, or work with the school system, or you can be citizens in targeted areas. So we have a focus in Binghamton, Hickory Hill, and several other zip codes that I can mention. If you go to the next slide, we don't get a lot of revenue, but we get a handful. So we receive $100,000 annually from Lee's Land and Parking Garage, from an agreement years and years prior where we're receiving some parking revenues. Once again, I talked about the Taste of Memphis. We have sponsorships and people, agree to sponsor up to that $20,000 amount. And then we have an old program, Fannie Mae service fees. We just, as those loans are paid off, we get fees every year. As you can see, that's not a lot of money, but that's what it is. And we receive $120,000 in, or expect $120,000 in revenue. Next slide. We don't have any that's not applicable. Let's see. All right, so personnel. Here we've got our service centers. Again, you can see right now we have 14 vacancies. That does include the ISL request for those new 4 positions. And within those vacancies, we posted 4 positions. And we posted 5 positions. We did a little bit deeper dive, and we can go into detail if y'all want to. But within the administration service center, one of those positions was recently vacated, so it hasn't had a chance to be posted yet. And another one, we're working with HR on a number of opportunities. But one, we have some positions that are just, their salaries are really low and they are difficult to fill. We get really great candidates who apply, but when it's time for us to make an offer and them to accept, in some cases, they're not accepting that salary. So we're trying to rethink some positions to see how we can make them more enticing, and if possible, how we can boost some of the salaries. We also have within that housing service center where you see 2 vacant positions, we have 2 potential positions under review. So we're trying to modify the positions to the need of the division. That's a process that we go to. We submitted those several weeks ago, and we're just in the process now working with HR on that. And let's see, 2 positions, I'm looking at my notes here, out of the community initiatives line, there are 3 vacancies. 2 of those have recently been filled with staff, so they just haven't caught up to the actual reports. If you go to the next slide, M&S. So our budget is $483,000 here, or our budget request. Most of these are fairly small balances. You see training, travel, all those sorts of things, supplies outside. We have a slide that's coming up for our miscellaneous professional services and miscellaneous, M&S budgets that are less than $15,000. Those are some of the things that showed up on the previous slides. So city fuel shop charges, any document printing, those kind of smaller balances. And then other miscellaneous and professional services. I had a note here as to what those were. So we have a lot of storage fees. We have to keep certain physical documents in storage for compliance purposes. We work with Shredded. We have about 65 employees, and those employees, we pay for parking for them. And so a lot of those fees that are just a little bit smaller are adding up to that $73,000 budgeted amount. If you go to the next slide. So these are our professional services. We keep these essentially year after year. The NACHA audit fees, that's one that is controlled by the administration. It's just a requirement. That's what it costs, the $20,000 to go through that audit process and work with the agency, and that's what it is. We have a lot of federal housing developments that we receive and pay for inspections on, but we also have some non-federal housing projects. Those could be ARPA funded, they might be city funded. And so we work with All World as a third-party inspector to go in and make sure when the CDC or whomever says they're going to fix up, repair, rehab a home, they go in, check, and make sure that it's actually done to the appropriate standard. And so that fee is for them. We work with different developers with our housing trust fund, or if we're transferring property or we're selling, around any legal issues. So we do purchase and sale agreements, we do title searches and other kind of legal matters that our city legal department don't handle. And so we work with Hagler Law Group there, and you can see her budgeted amount is $30,000. And then our last two are really to help us function as a division. So Neighborly is a really well-maintained and user-friendly platform. We have all of our grants loaded into that system. We have about 12 programs that people are able to go in and apply for. We've got a lot of great feedback on that platform. We had in prior years a lot of negative feedback on the ways that we were able to, or people were able to submit grants. And so it's a really useful program. Like I said, we've got about 12 programs loaded in there, and then anywhere from 20 to 30 staff who are able to go in, see who's applied. We work with different review committees, and so the review committee can receive the documentation. It's just a very, I think, well-needed system to help us manage our federal grants, and they manage a lot of federal grants across the country. And then our last professional services agreement is with Grow America, formerly NDC. We've had a contract with them, or we've worked with them probably the past 5 to 7 years. They help us on complex federal issues. So if somebody has an idea, or we're trying to work out how I'll use Southwest Twin, for example, if we want to think about how we can use federal dollars at the Southwest Twin site, they'll work with us, let us know what information needs to be within an agreement, let us know what to look for from a compliance perspective. They help us with monitoring. They offer technical assistance and training to our staff a couple of times a year, and then we have just ongoing conversations with them around making sure that we stay in compliance with the federal government and the regulations. All right, no leases. And our last slide is MWBE. Similar to last year, we're around, I think, 32,000 certified MWBE spend, and then 35,000 non-certified spending. That is operating. Were you about to say something?
Sorry, I was about to cut you off, but you go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just going to say that's operating budget. We can go in a CIP, or we can take any questions on the operating side.
That's interesting. We don't have any Hispanic or Latino relationships.
Councilwoman Swearingen-Washington, will you please use your microphone?
Thank you. It's interesting. We don't have any Hispanic or Latino relationships.
Yes, I agree. That is interesting. We have done, it's been a year, but I know last year we did a huge event for general contractors and had it bilingual, with Spanish and English to try to recruit some of those contractors. And that was in particular for our weatherization program at the time. And just seeing the numbers, seeing that event did not work. And so we can definitely go back and try to see how we can engage some of that population and community, make sure they're a part of this vendor pipeline. That's a great observation.
I wanted to ask you about the scattered sites program. Do we have a relationship with HUD to make sure that we are being considered for those types of projects in this area?
We have a really great relationship with HUD, but we're not currently involved in the scattered site program. I think a lot of that is localized and what communities do, which we're trying to look at and figure out how we can do that here locally. But a lot of communities will identify that's a priority. They want to either acquire and, for lack of better words, entice development on those scattered sites, and then they'll utilize HUD funding to make that happen. So it's not necessarily HUD driven, it's more community driven, and that's something, Councilwoman, that we're working on currently.
We would definitely like to look at that and able to provide affordable housing for our community members. And if that's a consideration, we would definitely like to move forward in that area. And anything that I can do to support, I would be willing to do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, Director Cash, can we go through CIP real quick?
Yes. This one's gonna be interesting. I have to scroll down because it's not a presentation. All right, so CIP, let's see. We're working with a PDF here, so is there a better way to? Oh, okay. All right, so this is just our CIP overview. It's over, 2025 FY request through 2029. We have a couple of new projects and several or a handful left over. So Southwest Twin, I'll just take them one at a time. You can go to the next slide. Southwest Twin. You push over. I think we're not pushed up yet. All right, so let's see. Actually, I'll go with Fairgrounds redevelopment. This is for, let me grab my, do you want to introduce yourself? Because you may end up.
Hello, everyone. Mary Claire Boris, HCD Administrator of Strategic Initiatives, 170 North Main. So the Fairgrounds redevelopment, this one is to deal with a couple of leftover promises that were made regarding the Fairgrounds redevelopment, specifically with regards to the Liberty Bell replica, which is currently in storage. It went back into storage with the stadium renovation. So what we would like to do is build a permanent home for the Liberty Bell, and we would like to have that constructed and in place in time for the nation's sesquicentennial, which is the 250th anniversary, which will be in 2026. So we want to get that done. And the rest of that, this is funded over several years, is we had to demo the old track and football stadium that used to be at the fairgrounds, and we're working with Parks to build a replacement facility.
Thank you. And as you can see, this year we're just asking for the planning dollars to Councilman Chair's earlier point around having the plan in place. So we're asking for planning dollars to support that this year. Go to the next slide. And we're going to be swift. You can go to the next slide. So Liberty Park Phase 2, this is really continuing on that project. We've had a lot of great development. It started years and years and years prior with the redevelopment of Tiger Lane, improvements of the Liberty Stadium, and then a little bit of full circle with the development of the Memphis Sports and Events Complex, which has been a great facility. And so we're asking for funds over the next couple of years for some management. As you know, when the stadium, or I shouldn't say as you know, but when the stadium was transferred, there is leaving a gap of support and maintenance around the parking structures that are around the stadium, and then any outside support. And so we're looking to help fund security there, some additional site work, wayfinding that includes cameras, that might be gates. We want to see how we can move away from the big concrete bollards that are manual and really make it look like the other amenities around it. And then any maintenance that we have to do to maintain, weed control, cutting grass, those sorts of things to keep it look nice. And wayfinding to make sure we've gotten a lot of comments and feedback about it's nice as you get there, but you have no clue where you're going when you're within there. And so we're hoping to put some wayfinding so that people can get to the assets that exist in that area. Want to go to the next slide?
All right, the Pinch District project. This is an overhead underground conversion in the Pinch District. We received a $36 million fast track grant. The City of Memphis, St. Jude, and Edge as partner on that. The grant was to help support the St. Jude expansion as well as to make the area available for future high density, moderate to high density development. We have St. Jude has done a lot of work. We've done a lot of work on that. The Domino's Village is done. What the city is paying for here is really the project management on that. So we work with Malazri Engineering. We have spent some FY24, but this is to help finish out that contract. We're right now looking at a 1-year extension on that grant to be October of next year. And so this 250 just helps with the coordination, the project management on the A&E and construction side of the grants. And then, all right, so Raleigh Springs. This is another project the city started several years ago. We're coming back and we want to support. So right now we've got a very tiny bit of planning A&E money for the farmers market. We've been working with the CDC for a number of years to try to figure out what the development looks like. And so we're requesting $1 million to help support all those amenities that you need to go around a food truck area, farmers market kind of place. So electricity, water, you had some other things in there. Any other kind of public amenities. We also want to be, restrooms, paving. We also want to be able to support infrastructure to get to that site, and then some pre-development activity on the adjacent site where we own about 20 acres of land adjacent to that. And so this is a budget over time. We're requesting $1 million this year, and then you can see the project total $4 million. And I think we just have one more, which is Southwest Twin. Did you want to talk about that one, Mary Claire? Okay.
I can do that. So I think, as most of you know, this involves the redevelopment of this old Southwest Twin drive-in down in the Westwood area, replacement for Levi Branch Library, replacement of the Rains Police Station, bringing them onto campus, very similar to what we did at Raleigh Springs, having some park type assets there as well. Again, this is another one that is being funded over time. So they ask for FY25 $1.75 million to help us with the design and some pre-construction. We're also we're cooperating with MSQ2 to get some stormwater grant dollars because we're taking hardscape and turning a lot of it green. Shelby County is going to participate in this project. Just to let you know that, in case you were wondering, is $29.8 million enough money to build 3 brand new buildings? No, it's not, but we're looking into other capital sources as well.
That's right, thank you. And the only thing I would add is that we know that the development is ultimately for the entire district, Councilman, so we're excited about that project. I thought that was the last one, but we've got one more, Hospitality Hub. So we are requesting to carry this project forward. If I can back up for one hot second, well, I won't. We're requesting to carry this project forward. We've been working with them. They've got some designs. They're doing another kind of small site, homeless. It's not a shelter, but it'll be multiple facilities or multiple small cottages, I think is what they're calling. They're currently looking for a new location. They were not favorably received with their previous site proposal, and so they're trying to identify some alternative sites. And so we are recommending or requesting to carry that project forward. We think it's a great project. They've just got to find the good, best and highest location for that. Good. That is our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, ladies, both of you. Colleagues, I don't see anybody in the queue. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Well
We
done.
appreciate it. So what happens?
If someone would retrieve Judge Chandler and Clerk Johnson from the hallway.
Where you guys at, clerks?
Okay, great.
Be real quick. Good job, Canal. Matter of
Once again, good afternoon. Michael Say, Chief Deputy City Court Clerk's Office.
Sakita Johnson, City Court Clerk, 201 Poplar.
I'm sorry, I forgot my
Working
address,
the jail.
201 Poplar.
Okay, go ahead.
Our organization chart is,
There we go.
we have 3 legal levels. The first one being the TVB 870101, automated photo enforcement, that's our red light cameras 870201, and then our speed enforcement cameras 870203. The strategic plan for the City Court Clerk's Office for the fiscal year 2025 is improving the processes within the City Court Clerk's Office to make our operations more efficient. We have several goals that we would like to set for ourselves to obtain, dealing with our data collections and the services that we offer to the citizens and the other organizations that we support. We're also focusing on employee retention and developing to improve our employee morale, which will thereby improve our customer service and foster a positive relationship within the office and the community. We want to promote the programs that we have. We have the Drive While You Pay, Time to Pay, and amnesty programs to increase the community awareness, educate them on those programs, and increase their involvement with each one of those programs so that we can increase the generate greater revenue for our city and help dispel the hopelessness of our citizens so that they can know that there are programs out there to help them. Moving on to our expenditures. In fiscal year 2024, our funding budget was $7,432,483. This fiscal year, FY25, we're requesting $7,830,084. That is an increase in our budget of $460,664, which I will indicate later on in the other side. But we do have some reductions in this amount. But the majority of this increase is in personnel. Again, the funding budget for FY 2024 was $7,432,483. Our request is $7,830,084, with an increase of $460,664. The changes year over year. I'm sorry. Somebody had a question?
Yeah, a quick question real quick. Cool. You want them to finish? You want to go ahead and ask question? Go ahead and finish.
Okay. The changes in our year over year, you'll see that we have a reduction of about 23,000 in our full-time salaries. Our largest reduction was in our professional services. We have some temporary cost reductions to help improve our efficiency. Some of those deal with our photo enforcement cameras. We have a relationship with the Memphis Police Department, of course, and they're taking on some of the charges, so we're able to show a reduction in those areas as well. Our major increases in our services and charges are $407,700. That is due to a recent contract change with our speed cameras. That contract expired on December 27. We had to have a temporary extension while we go out and try to do an RFP to get a new agency to administer that program. So the current charges for this one-year term increased by $407,000. That's why you see that large increase on this budget. Revenues, we're anticipating collecting $400 million. However, we will exceed that. By how much, I'm not sure, but if we are able to accomplish the goals that we have set for the improvement of our efficiency, I would go on here to say that we would look at anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 increase to this revenue. We don't have any changes year over year in our revenue. Division details. So our complement is 58 employees. Right now we have 7 vacancies with a possible of 1 left over. So we were looking to fill those, but right now we have not taken the initiative to fill anything because our division is in limbo, so to speak. We're trying to figure out what the division is going to be because we don't want to, we want to have the least impact on our employees' lives. We don't want to set them up for something that may change. So we want to wait to make sure that we know what direction we're going in before we fill those vacancies. So it would be great if we could get that information sooner than later. All right. Our material and supplies expenditures, if you look at this, you can see that the bulk of our expenditures comes in our miscellaneous service and charges and our miscellaneous professional service. Both of those numbers house our automated photo enforcement systems. One is the speed camera and the other one is the red light camera. So that's the bulk of that $1,159,700 as well as the $1,981,746. The speed and red light cameras. Yes, ma'am. The red light cameras would be the 1.9 and the speed camera would be the 1.5. We have, did you have, somebody have a question? Okay. All right. So our major expenditures total $3,489,634. The account details for our professional services, we order our office supplies through Excel. We spend about $80,000 on that, to be exact, $79,270. We have other expenses, miscellaneous and various vendors that we spend $138,722 for. Our conduit speed camera, the expenses on that is $336,897. And our American Traffic, which is the photo red light cameras, is $1,426,857. And that's what the billed amount is from each one of those photo investment accounts.
You still going?
I can
just go ahead and finish because I know we got a lot of. I know you're almost done.
Yeah, and the only other thing we have on here is moving and the storage. We were displaced from a Shelby County building, so we had to store some documents, which court dockets. And according to the state constitution, we have to hold those indefinitely. So we had to find a storage bid. I know you all was gracious enough to give us the old fire station on Holmes Road, but that fire station is full now. So we had to solicit the services of UN Storage Company to house that information that was in the building on Washington. And we had documents going back to 1967. Okay. And this last slide just shows our minority and women business participation.
All right. I know we got multiple council members in the queue, but I'm gonna ask a couple questions. I see that, let me get back to it. I'm looking at the adopted budget for 24, which is 3.7 million. How do we overspend about 700,000? Am I missing something?
Okay, you said that.
So the adopted budget was 3.7 million, and the forecast is 4.4 million. What's happening here? Y'all aren't the only division who overspent. But what happened here? Or am I reading this wrong? Right.
Tell me which slide you're looking at.
No, it's not a slide. It's the budget. It's the budget book.
Budget book.
Here, you can. I'm gonna walk around.
Yeah, I would need to look at see what you talking about.
Can we have? You come get it. Uh-oh.
Restate your question. Chair.
The budget, I think the adopted budget for FY24 for this particular division was 3.7 million.
Yes, sir.
The forecast is 4.4 million. I'm trying to figure out, like, why are we spending so much more? What am I missing?
Got it.
So,
I'm just trying to figure out what was.
okay, so one major thing is the contract for the speed camera that was negotiated before I got here. The increase was 1.6 million. It was an increase. It was negotiated before I got here.
So I think that brings me to Councilman Canales' point. It says for personnel services. So is the contract for personnel? So personnel services, 3.7 million, and then the forecast is 4.4 million.
Okay,
So this is personnel services. This is what I'm looking at. You just keep it. Just keep it for a second. I can look on to Councilman Canales. So page 23 of 191, you look at, it says 500 personnel services. The adopted budget for FY24 for personnel services is 3.7 million, but the forecast is 4.4 million. What happened here? I think.
So the forecast is what we plan to spend. It's not the actual expense, right?
Mm-hmm. So that means we're
right. So I think
we're overspending.
Right now,
we're spending more money than is adopted.
Yeah, we're looking to overspend, but we're not at that point right now. Right. So we're not going.
But we're already over. So if this is the forecast, at some point we're over right now. So I'm just trying to figure out why are we over. That's a simple question. Why are we over? We haven't.
So would you allow us an opportunity? We need to come back to you. We'll pull the actuals.
Oh, that's fine.
And then what we'll do is we'll come back because again, Clerk Johnson is new, and so I will take in consideration 6 months of that spend happened before her, and they had a lot of momentum prior to. I mean, leading into her coming on board, and then of course Mr. Sane as well in the current position. So allow us to come back with the actuals, and then we'll provide you clarity on the question that you asked.
I think this body is well aware. The two individuals here have less to do with what we're saying, but it's still a question that I'm just trying to figure out what happened. It could. So as y'all talk through it, y'all don't have to have an answer today, but at some point, we're gonna want to know like what's happening here, and we know this may not be fall on your shoulders, but it's still a question we ask every director. So y'all can just mark that question and then you can just shoot us an email and explain if it's the contract. Why is it in personnel services? Should it be somewhere else instead? Or like, why are we spending money to that rate? And then my other question is this: do we have how much? So I see the rent, $24,000. This is an ongoing expense.
That's a contract that was negotiated before.
And when do we enter this contract?
It was entered into in November.
December. And how long is the
Entered
contract?
into in November. It began December.
How long is the contract?
It's a 1-year contract. Or no, there's not a length of time.
So we
speak him.
No.
I like month-to-month contracts.
Oh, well, there's not a length of time.
There's not a length
we
of
just
time.
have to figure out somewhere to move our.
So how much space are we talking?
So we moved over 7,500 some pounds of dockets. So we have to find space for that or have those dockets converted to digitally so we can house them.
So
that's the issue right now. And again, these dockets go all the way back to the 1960s.
Isn't that a retention policy? How long? What's
forever.
Forever. All right. So, my question is, we have space in the city of Memphis. It seems like we should be trying to find space for the clerk to store documents in a city-owned asset, so we don't have to pay.
You all did provide us space.
Yeah, I
But that
believe.
space is full.
Right, I believe there
I
at
understand
one
that.
point, and I believe
Hold
there,
on, y'all. One at a time.
There was. Correct me if I'm wrong. This was kind of. It was fire station number 43. Old fire station, is it? Number 43 was originally. Pardon me.
The citations are there.
Right. Was provided by the city to originally house these items. My understanding is last time I spoke with the clerk's office at some length, they're having some problems with the roofing there.
It's been fixed.
It's been fixed. Okay, and so that's a good thing. Evidently, since that time, of course, they've obtained the storage at Ewing. You say for the dockets, so I think that's part of the reason for the additional storage.
So I'm not less concerned about them trying to find places for them to store the documents. I'm just more concerned about how can we as a city find them space to store? Because once I get to this issue, I'm going to another issue, and it's going to be lead us down a similar path.
Understood.
I think we have to take some responsibility of helping them find space. That's one thing. Then I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the third thing, which is we know they've been trying to get the nicest way to put it. I think they overstayed their welcome in the current space that they're in. I believe their welcome is coming to a quick end, an expeditious end, and I think we have to be diligent on what we're doing to find them a space so that they can operate and not worry about the landlord giving them the door.
Correct. And Mayor Young is committed to doing so. I'll say this much: for years, Judge Chandler has been leading the charge in trying to get a permanent space for the clerk's office as well as the municipal judges. So that is one of the items that we are looking at, trying to identify the space. But one of the things that we do have to do is we have to coordinate with the judges to make sure that it is suitable.
I mean, we can always, once we get the space, we can always retrofit it to get it prepared so that we can make it suitable for the judges. And I know that Judge Chandler is more than willing, and Judge Cooper and Judge Hooks are going to be very cooperative in this process. But we do have to keep in mind, landlord said it's time to go. It's time to go. So we got to do our part.
You're right, and when we will, one of the things that we want to take in consideration is there's going to be capital expenditures, one for acquisition,
absolutely,
and then two for construction. And you want to make sure that we get them the suitable space, not just put just space.
Look nice.
Yeah,
look nice.
Yeah, definitely.
And then my so I'm just making sure we're mindful. Then is there a price associated with that leasing of the current space you all, well, I guess it's for the judges and you all, do you currently use, is there amount you paying for rent?
MPD covers the expense for being in 201.
Shout out to MPD. Yeah.
That's under their.
They get one clap today. They get one clap today. And how much, well, it's not a question, it's a question that we need to ask them. Okay, that's it for me. Who else we have in the queue? Jazz. Councilwoman Canale is upset about this for the record.
All right, Chair, you have taken all my questions.
I'm sorry. I just needed to know. Councilwoman Swearingen Washington.
You have really tapped into my questions, and I was just thinking if we could have a partnership. I know that the schools are trying to get rid of some property.
No, they're trying to get some money.
If some of those schools that are that are not being utilized, if we could get some of that property. I was even thinking about Magnolia Community Center, some properties that we're trying to get rid of, but it just seems outrageous for us to be paying $24,000 a year just to store some files. So we need to be very assertive and aggressive with getting some properties within our jurisdiction that we could utilize for that. Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I was wondering how the morale and the staff has been going. I know that there was a challenge when you first came in, and I was just wondering how it was going.
It has increased drastically. Mm-hmm.
What have you been doing?
Communicating, being compassionate, being fair, showing care. I actually go around every morning speaking to everybody, giving everybody a hug who wants one. So,
can you go back to page 16? There was something on page 16. I put a note on page 16. Oh, yeah, the traffic cameras expense. I know that we're making all of that for the photo enforcement. I just wonder, what are we getting back? We're spending over $1 million to be able to invest in the traffic solutions, but what are we getting back with that?
The revenue on the red light cameras is a great benefit to the city. We're bringing in over, I would say, 3 to 4 million, well, double what we're spending. So on the speed cameras, we having an issue with that because the Memphis Police Department is short-staffed. They don't have the manpower to actually go through and analyze the tickets that come in. We recently had to increase the limit in the S-curves just so we could reduce the amount of citations that they were receiving because they don't have the manpower to do it. But if MPD had the manpower to actually process each one of the violations, then that revenue could be just as good as the red light camera revenue.
Are we spending more than we're receiving in?
Not on the red light cameras, absolutely not. On the speed cameras, we're about close.
Is it enforceable? Some people are believing that when they get these tickets, they don't have to pay them. What is the consequence for these people? Okay, well, I retract that question.
Yes, you have to pay them is the answer.
Yes.
Okay.
Pay your tickets.
I retract it. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Vice Chairman Canale is eager to ask questions.
Councilwoman Swearingen Washington beat me to it. But I'd be more interested not in so much in revenue. I can see what the revenue generated, but I assume that you get a daily or a weekly report on how many citations are issued through red light and speed. And do you have it off the top of your head?
I do not, but I can provide that information.
Just a percentage. Like if we, in the month of April, if we issued 1,000, did 500 get paid? Did 200 get paid? Did 100 get paid?
I would say on the red light camera side, we're probably collecting somewhere around between 43 to like 47% of that, almost 50% of the red light camera tickets that are issued.
Okay. That's all I had, Chairman.
Oh, I like how you ask questions. It's brief. Dr. Warren, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm wondering, where are we as far as converting all of these files to digital files, and what will that cost us? Because it looks like we potentially would save money if we didn't have to like manually keep all of these things and we could convert them digitally. So I heard someone mention that, or what's the process? What are y'all thinking about there?
Well, I've been looking at vendors, but I know it's going to cost way more than the $24,000 we're spending now.
Well,
because they
that's
have
only
to-
for part of our files, right? So we've got buildings that we're using and heating that we're putting in there. And I'm just wondering, as we move forward, if we're keeping this stuff indefinitely.
As we move forward, we definitely should get it electronic, but it's going to cost a lot of money.
So, I mean, I think as you go forward, we need to know what options are and a plan that we can gradually start moving toward, because even though it's going to cost a lot, we haven't spent a lot. You know, we've been cutting costs on everything.
Right.
And this is someplace we need to invest to save money down the road.
Yes, I've been researching vendors.
Okay, so when do you think you'll bring that to the council for a request? Is this something next year, 2 years from now? I mean, don't answer the question.
Okay.
Realize that's something that I think we need to know, and that's something you should work with administration on to try to bring to us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so as it relates to how long we keep records, what's the state law? Does anybody know what the state law is? Say we keep them forever?
Yes, that's the state law.
Right.
We have to maintain citations and dockets forever, and we're supposed to be having public access, but we don't.
So what's the penalty for not keeping it forever?
I have not seen.
I'm trying to save money.
A penalty. Yeah, I want to find out.
I'm just.
There's no statute of I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's no statute of limitations governing the keeping of those documents. And to the point that Dr. Warren was making, you can digitize the documents. Some of that work has been researched in the past. I think some of the challenges is two-pronged. One is around the actual scanning in of the documents, which most vendors, I can't speak for the ones that the clerk has currently researched, charge a fee for that. And then it's the storage and retrieval part, which is kind of an ongoing fee. It would be nice if you could just kind of pay a one-time upfront fee and be done with it. But that historically is what drove some of the decisions around keeping paper copies in the past.
But what if we brought that in-house and we did that in-house ourselves? What would that cost us to do in-house? That's the question I think we need to ask ourselves.
And that's a great question. I don't know that we have the capabilities currently to do that, but I think that is a solid question to research.
Okay, to follow up, I have talked to IT, and the city does have storage. We just have to get a vendor to scan them, and then we have to get a vendor to provide the website and the access point for the public.
Why do we have to have a vendor? Why can't we let our IT people do that here? That's the question, because we're looking, because every time we get a vendor, it costs us more money. So I don't know. I see someone who's anxious to tell us.
I write that question down. I'm not sure why.
All right. Hold on. Okay, you were saying. Come on.
You know, I have a dog named Blue, and only when I check him into the vet do I realize we named him Blue Green.
Somebody's gonna quote that. Somebody's gonna quote
it's so
that.
ridiculous. Okay, on page 15, back to business at hand. We're a little delirious. We're getting late tonight. Security is over $38,000. I'm curious, is that security on a building for where you have the record stored?
No, that's actually Loomis. That's our portion. I think the city has an overall contract. They come deliver change in money to our location.
And to your office.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's our portion of that Loomis contract.
Okay, that was my question. I just wasn't clear what the security was for.
All right, Councilwoman White. It appears that all hearts and minds are clear. I guess I can go home for the day.
Thank you.
All right. Done. You want to ask us some more questions? Oh, not from the city court, because I know we like to think they're one. I told them they're one, but they told me I was wrong. From the judges, absolutely. Remember, their budgets are combined. Don't listen to anything I'm saying. I'm joking.
Chair.
Judges.
Just want to say for the record, Mr. Sane was one of my parents at Peabody Elementary School, and he was an exceptional parent and community member with the Peabody
PTO
Elementary.
He said, and the PTO president.
Yes, he was.
But how was she?
How was I? I was an outstanding teacher. Go ahead and tell him, Mr. Sane. Don't play with me.
Yeah. I feel like he may be
best fourth grade teacher at Peabody Elementary.
That's right.
I feel like he may be coerced.
No.
You holding the budget into your hand.
Phenomenal teacher.
All right, let's bring it back in. Judge Chandler.
No, it shouldn't take long at all. There haven't really been too many changes. I'm Jane Chandler, administrative judge for the Memphis Municipal Courts. The organization chart.
Zip code, address.
201 Poplar, room LL06, Memphis, Tennessee, 38103.
And there's a gentleman beside you.
Jeffrey Young, Senior Financial Analyst for Budget.
Okay, cool.
And I appreciate him so much. I don't know what I'd do without him. So thank you very much. I appreciate all that you've done to assist us with this presentation. So there are 3 elected city court judges for the 3 divisions of city court. And this, on the second, actually page 3, the budget request and the strategic priorities addressed somewhat by this budget have already been pointed out. The planning for the relocation of the courts within 2 years for spaces for the judges, prosecutors, clerk's office, and MPD court officers, allocation for a consultant or someone to work with us in this relocation process, hybrid court, Zoom court. And what this will do will help us better serve the citizens of Memphis. And most of our expenditures and money spent are pretty much personnel and materials and supplies. That's the bulk of all of our monies. That's on page 5. And then the adopted budget, it really hasn't changed. It really hasn't changed much. And then if you go to page 7, there's showing a net change of 127.5, but that's pretty much to help cover the cost of trying to get consultants looking into the move, the allocation, and then part of it is raises proposed by the mayor and HR also, and to also bring the judges in line with the salaries. And if you skip down to, let's see, page, the complement, there are 5 positions in the city court judge's office, and they're all filled. And like I said, our biggest expenses are pretty much materials and supplies. And the other last page for us is minority spending. And that's pretty much the city judges. Presentation.
That's it?
That's it.
I could even, ask you a million questions to ask you.
But thank you, and thank you very much for pointing out that we need assistance in locating, space before. I don't want to run into situations like they have on the other side where the lease expires and nobody knows. So it's been put out, there, and we need to really consider it for FY25. So I'm just saying that now, because
They're not
we aren't getting put out.
We're not getting.
Your
length of time. I'm sorry, Mike.
I was told.
Chair.
I was told that it's
Mike
possibly. I was told that it was possibly 2 years. 2 years.
We need to find something before 2 years.
Absolutely.
So are you all looking for something? Have you proposed something?
Oh, certainly. I've been talking, as Mr. Adams, Chief Adams has said, I've been trying to push something for years now.
Okay. All right. Well, just let us know if you need the council help in pushing.
Oh, I need the council's help in pushing, so thank you very much in advance for your assistance.
You are so very welcome, Judge.
Yeah, but I appreciate Chair Smiley for even mentioning it.
I don't write blank checks. I pull out a red pen and I say we cutting. But in all seriousness, we appreciate you all and presenting a very succinct budget. And with that being said, I think Councilwoman Green wants to ask another question. No, I was teasing.
Let me just say one thing on the lease downtown. I do want to push the administration to start looking like yesterday, if you haven't already, because in discussions and things downtown, there's very little real estate, and I assume you want to stay down here. So
Brandon James is okay.
Yeah, we really got to find something, and it's only going to go up. So.
Right, and it has to be in close proximity to.
There's Raymond James open. 200 Jefferson got a lot of space. Their landlord's struggling. It's a lot of places. Just saying. No, I don't believe her. I don't want to spend any money.
If we could collect some more of those tickets.
We're gonna, we have.